Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
I just want to go into 2024 with someone that's not easy to defend.
You're looking at a Frankenstein offensive line right now. Frankenstein, you're taking
together.
pieces
All
to put
patched
over
together.
there.
Well, it should
We
be
got
really
this one, let's put over
Frankenstein's
there.
monster.
Yeah, he was a
Frankenstein,
scientist.
sorry.
I have like an old school digital clock. Big surprise. An old school digital clock. You know, it's like
Do you do anything in the
next to your bed?
21st
Next to your
century?
bed?
Do you slide it? How do you set the alarm? Does it have a
No, I
snooze
don't.
button?
Gets up when the cock crows.
Right.
Better than my algorithm on Facebook. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
Jesus.
really? Oh.
I don't want to open that door.
You got a little porn? What do you got?
It's Facebook, Paul. It's not OnlyFans.
It's all guys from New
These
Jersey
days.
named Mike.
How you doing?
It was.
Yeah, for
it's
him.
it's
Yeah.
it's mostly comparable,
No,
but
at the time.
Tully Bantic.
Not for him.
Less.
Today, he didn't get 19 million like Owenu did, but it's inflation.
James Sanders.
This is cracking me up.
How come he's the only one allowed to talk over everybody?
Oh, there we go. Okay, so there's lots of weird beeping going on when you guys are dealing with the phone.
That's Paul backing up his takes.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium. And what, Deuce?
I don't know.
You going to say something?
I was just point to the sky when you say what day it is. I don't know what it means. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Tuesday.
All right. Thank the
Indeed.
Lord. And we're in the midst of free agency. I don't know if I'd call it a frenzy for the Patriots, but they're still making some moves. It's Deuce, it's Tamara, it's Evan, it's Paul, myself. Matt and Jules are in the booth. And why don't you run down the latest moves?
Oh, it's just one. It's just
Just one.
KJ.
Yeah.
KJ Osborne.
Who's in the building today?
He is.
Yeah.
1 year, $4 million. Yeah, pretty good move. I mean, I think we were talking on the draft show before this, and it just feels a little redundant. I mean, I think he's a player. He can play in the NFL, and I mean,
He's
you
a
know,
player.
he can play in the
Yeah.
NFL.
No, he
Bill on Mac
no, he had
Jones
some
a few
big
years ago.
big touchdowns.
He's
You know,
arguing.
he's had some clutch moments. I think you know he's a productive guy, but you know I still kind of see him as Kendrick Bourne, that kind of player.
Yeah, you still
So,
need a number one.
yeah, you still just don't have an outside receiver really, or somebody that has
Yeah.
presence on the outside. As much as Devontae Parker was not reliable, that was at least one thing where he kind of fit. So I think they're still searching for that guy, and that's what we're talking about on Draft Countdown, which will be out tomorrow. Just how do you find that guy, and can you find him in the draft in the mid rounds?
Yeah, I mean, or trade.
Yep.
I saw everybody was saying T. Higgins, for a second, which if they did that, I would be fine with that. You have to pay him, of course. So basically you're using your second round pick for a receiver, which is kind of what they were planning to do anyway, except,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm okay with that because I feel like I'm a big quality over quantity type of gal, and I do believe that they probably put all of their eggs in their basket, obviously, to get the wide receiver we all wanted in Calvin Ridley, or at least
Try.
that was the best one out there for us. And so now that he's obviously off the market going to the Titans, I'm wondering if maybe all of their focus was on that and they didn't really have a backup plan, or their backup plan was the draft. But I do think that they should at least try to go get T. Higgins.
Yeah, everyone's saying now, now that they lost out on Calvin Ridley, they're all in on the draft. They're putting all their eggs in the draft basket.
That was according to Jacina Anderson.
Yeah, I don't know why that.
From the Patriots.
I don't know why that should be the case. Okay, so
Yeah.
you missed on Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
I feel like there should have been a backup plan, or at least some sort of okay, if we do miss out on him, here's the next guys up.
Well, they got Osborne. I mean, I don't know if that was a.
It's not as sexy.
It's not as sexy, and he's not as
Or-
good. But
Or I would have tried to go get Jonah. Okay, say if we couldn't get our money to go to Calvin Ridley, could we get it to go towards our offensive line instead?
yeah,
And I feel like the Patriots fans, it looked like the people I follow were really upset that they didn't try to make a move quickly for Jonah after they couldn't get Calvin Ridley.
yeah.
Oh, I think it came to light. I was one of those people that was upset that they didn't go after Jonah Williams, but now they want Mike Onwenu to play right tackle.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
that was their move at tackle in free agency. Whether we agree or not that Mike Onwenu is a right tackle or not, their big money tackle move was to bring back Onwenu and play him at right tackle.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. I see what they're trying to accomplish this offseason so far. It's not exciting. It's not splashy. It's not the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. But guys like KJ Osborne, whether you agree with this or you need to have depth on your roster.
Yeah.
And now they have a wide receiver room that I would say is really just missing the alpha guy. And if it's T. Higgins for the 34th overall pick, it's A.D. Mitchell, it's Xavier Legette, it's whoever in the draft, that's supposed to be your alpha. Now, you can not trust that they're going to draft the right guy based off their track record, but I understand what they're doing in terms of we're going to use free agency mostly to supplement the depth pieces of the roster so that when we get to the draft, it's draft the quarterback, draft the receiver, and hopefully we hit on those two picks, and now we have the top end of the roster guys. I don't know what top end of the roster guys were available on the open market besides Ridley, who they tried to get, that was really going to fill that need in free agency.
And that's why I have no problems if they have decided to sort of switch gears wide receiver-wise, because I think that's the only one that was really left. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't take KJ Osborne. I'm not saying I wouldn't be interested in Mike Williams. But, like, in terms of big-ticket items, it was Ridley, and that was kind of it.
Yep.
The rest of them required trades, and that's a different animal.
Yeah.
So the other part, if they had just, like, the moves that they made was exactly what Evan said in terms of, adding some good players and some depth pieces. And I just wish there was something to sort of tie it all together, with a big-ticket item, to lead that group. When you leads that group among the re-signed guys.
Right. Well, you're kind of hoping that you had among tackle or wide receiver a big-ticket item just to take the stress off the draft.
Right. They have three major needs heading into the draft. They have addressed none of them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, even if, like, let's just say you got Ridley, that means you can draft your quarterback, you can take a tackle with your second pick, and then you don't have to use, you can take a wide receiver in the fourth round because you still could get a pretty good wide receiver in the fourth round.
You absolutely can.
You
absolutely can. And I think
But
they're
now
probably going to go that way because I think, and Evan talked about the when you move at tackle, which I really don't now, like, I liked that signing. That was my favorite move. Out of all the moves they've made, that's the one I liked the most. I still like it the most, but I don't like it as much with this sort of decision that they've reportedly made. We should credit Ian Rappaport that the plan is that he's going to be the right tackle. I don't like him as the right tackle as much as I do as the right guard. But either way, to Evan's point, they still need a left tackle.
Right.
Yeah.
And at some point, you have to figure out how you're going to fill that hole.
I'm with you, Paul, on not really loving that report. I mean, we talked about it last show, but I thought, Evan, I'll let you say it. We were talking about it upstairs. I thought Evan actually had a good point. Not to say actually.
I was going to say, is that the
one?
One,
he actually had
the one time?
once in 2 years.
No, but on when you, why don't you spit it out?
I'm not sure which exact point you're talking about, but yeah,
I make so many of them.
Well, just
we just talk a lot about football.
I think we can. I'll admit he's a pretty solid right tackle, and it's a place to start for them. And it's a 1-year thing, maybe, and maybe if it doesn't work, they'll kick him back into guard next year. And but maybe as a starting point, they're at least gonna go
and hopefully
with
with better coaching too.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, there's no doubt that he brings more value to the team at tackle. It's a more valuable position. But the problem that I see with Onwenu at tackle is pass blocking. He's got a short corner because he doesn't have the great movement skills and athleticism to get out to, pass sets and get out there and cut off the corners and things like that. Now, maybe an off season of tackle sets and then maybe he drops 10, 15 pounds, 10 pounds maybe, to get a little bit thinner.
Mentally, maybe he's more in tune with it because I don't think he really wanted to do it last year.
Yeah, maybe he's just lighter on his feet. Maybe he's more into it. Maybe he's getting better coaching. Maybe he's got more experience there in the offseason, and he can individually improve. I believe that could happen, but this trickle-down effect that it has on what they want to do schematically and on the interior of the offensive line is where my major concerns are with him playing tackle because maybe I'm in the minority. I got a lot of pushback about this. I am not sold on Cole Strange yet as a starting left guard in the league. both because of injuries and because of performance. The guy had one good stretch of play last year, immediately gets hurt. So, like, what are we got to see it from Cole Strange. I like City So. I love So and Onwenu next to each other. If you're going to be a downhill run team, those guys are going to move the line of scrimmage together really, really well. But you're a little bit weaker in pass blocking on the right side. You still have a question mark in my mind at left guard, and we don't even have a left tackle. So it's like there's still a lot of things to work out.
It puts more pressure on that group of young guys. Now, I think you should be able to figure it out. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but I agree with Evan. Strange, So, Mafi, Jake Andrews.
Yeah.
Now you need two of those guys to emerge as legitimate starters.
And
because I thought Onwenu would be one of those starters.
I'm just going to say, not insignificant that it sounds like Cole Strange is not going to jump right in the program, be ready to go. Like some of what they think they got Leverett for was to have some insurance on him. But if you're trying to pitch that Cole Strange is going to pick up where he left off before he got hurt, it's kind of hard, to say if he's not even really going to. We don't even know. He didn't
practice in camp last year either because of an injury.
Day one of pads.
I don't know why we're convinced that that's an answer there yet.
And I was mildly surprised that Tyron Smith was willing to go to the Jets for what he got in a one-year deal. I mean, that's a good deal for the Jets. It really is.
It's a good signing. And if Mike Williams, if they're able to get Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and Aaron Rodgers is healthy, I mean they should have reason for optimism for sure.
I thought Smith would be looking for, and he would hold out until he got better money. But I'm good for them, but. Boy, we could use him.
Yeah, at his age, he probably wasn't going to get the
he's 33.
The kind of deal.
Yeah,
but I do think that the Jets needed to overhaul their offensive line. I don't know if it'll work, but they did. I mean, that's three different guys they brought in, right? Two tackles with Moses and who's the guard? John something. I can't think of his name. But anyway, they signed three guys that ostensibly could be starting for them on the offensive line.
Yeah, they definitely shook it up. I wonder if Mekhi Becton is at all on the Patriots' radar because
I thought about that.
Those are the types of moves that I feel like they should be making. This is a very, very talented guy that hasn't been able to stay on the field, hasn't really been able to gain any momentum in his career, but has first round top of the 10, right? I think he was like 10 or 11 in that draft in the first round talent. So maybe they have an incentive laden deal with Mekhi Becton who can play on the left side.
John Simpson.
I thought it was Simpson.
I had John Simon in my head.
I thought it was
Baltimore.
Simpson, but I didn't want to be wrong.
Right.
So
I couldn't think Shepard, Simpson, something.
Samson.
But he was a starter for the Ravens. Good offensive line, run-oriented team, obviously. So I think they brought three guys in. We'll see if those guys can stay healthy. That's the big if, especially with Smith. I saw, everyone's favorite betting expert, Mike Lombardi, immediately said, what's the over-under on how many games Smith's going to play? I mean, I don't know. Like, would you say that if, Baltimore signed Tyron Smith or if the Patriots signed Tyron Smith? I mean, it's because the Jets signed him, so he's destined to not play any games. He's an injury risk.
It's a legitimate
He's
question.
an injury risk, no question.
Yeah.
What do you think he signed a one-year deal for?
Right.
Well, go through the guys I rattled off, they've all had injury issues in the last 2 years, except for, I guess, Garrett Williams was, so I don't know. You know how injuries are. Sometimes they hit you. Sometimes you just magically get through the year without them. We'll see. But if they all stay healthy, I think that Jets team's going to be a problem.
So losing out on Calvin Ridley, looking at what the free agent market is right now, does this make it more sure that the Patriots are going to take the third pick and take a quarterback, or is there now more odds that they might trade down?
I just think there's an argument to be made to trade down. But if you don't love Drake May or Jaden Daniels, it's pretty simple to me. You either take one of those two guys or you trade down and try to get a tackle and a wide receiver.
So nothing changes if they like one of those two. If they like both those guys.
Well, in terms of things that have changed since our last show, that Minnesota trade, have we mentioned that at all? I don't think that changes really much for the Patriots. I don't think that they're looking to go from 11 to 3. I think they got something else in mind. But Minnesota acquired an additional first-round pick from Houston, 23, I think. So they now have 11 and 23. And the conventional wisdom is they're looking to get into the quarterback race. But a lot of people think it's J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah,
at 5, maybe with the Chargers.
Or 4 with Arizona. Yeah, one of those two teams. I just, if you take everything that they've said at face value and all the reporting at face value, the plan all along, going all the way back to the combine, was to draft a quarterback. And I don't think missing on Calvin Ridley should derail you from that plan. I don't think you should just throw the plan up in the air because you missed out on a guy that's a good player, but we're not talking about, prime Randy Moss here that they didn't sign. So I would just say that if that's all of that is true, that they were really dead set. They've already checked the Jacoby Brissett box, which is what everybody said that they were going to do. So it seems like we're on this path. Then why would you change your plan at 3 just because you missed out on Calvin Ridley? It just seems like an overreaction.
And then there's this other Brer report, which I don't get how people extrapolate this. Brer reports that at the combine, the Patriots were approached by the Saints to see if they were interested in moving out of 3, and the Patriots said no. So now from that report, everyone's like, Patriots have no interest in moving out of 3. No, at that time with that team, they might have said no but that doesn't mean that everything else is off the table. But that's the way it was presented.
Yeah, you can't base off of one team out of 32.
Right.
That's just such a weird thing to say. If it was 5 teams in the NFL and one asked, then maybe. But 32.
And at the combine, it was last month.
I think the thing, too, though, is with Minnesota, which, pretty much everybody who does mock drafts and are looking for ways to keep them fresh is now trading down with Minnesota and taking 11 and 23. And it's like, man, if you just didn't need a quarterback, this would be the perfect draft to get a tackle and a wide receiver at 11 and 23.
Don't forget, you're going to add Justin Jefferson.
And Justin
Jefferson.
So
let's put our Kevin Costner hat on.
Do what's best for the team.
Is there any strategy that the Patriots could employ? You do the trade. You take 11 and 23, but then you use that to do something.
Yeah, well, Arizona did that last year.
And someone else did it. Was it Philly with Miami?
Well,
I forget the whole.
They made a trade with Miami before the draft,
and
weeks
then
before.
But they traded down, and then they went back up, right? Am I thinking that
I don't know. The one I remember is Arizona.
Because that's what you were thinking.
Year.
You think that Kevin Costner, they were going to trade down to 11 and maybe slide back up to 8 to do something?
Yeah.
Arizona last year traded out of 3 with Houston, who took Will Anderson, and then Arizona, it was at 12. And then they traded back up to take Paris Johnson somewhere in the 5 to 10 range. I can't remember, 7 or something like that. So it's been done before.
Yeah.
It's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but you're probably looking at them doing that to take Olu Fashanu instead of Talisi Fugawa or Roma Dunze instead of Brian Thomas Jr.
Right.
Those are the
not
conversations.
done, so you still get the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
Correct.
like Costner did.
But I'm just trying to work this out. So let's just say that their intelligence tells them that Minnesota wants J.J. McCarthy, and the Patriots don't want J.J. McCarthy. So, okay, if you're going to use our pick to get him, that means Drake May or the other guy is still available. Jaden Daniels. So we moved back to 4. With Arizona, it costs us less.
So basically, you're trying to pull Jason Tatum. Yeah, that's what you're trying to do.
Trade it down and get the guy you wanted the most anyway.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Wait, but what if they only want JJ because that's where they think he's going to fall?
Well, that's what you have to be sure of. But,
it's ballsy.
Then they could be like
Lonzo ballsy.
Then they could be like, actually, Jaden's there, so I'm going to take him instead.
We didn't think he's going to be there.
Yeah. But it's risky.
Yeah, it is risky, but
the only way I see you doing that is if you view them all the same.
Yeah.
If you think there's no difference between J.J. McCarthy and Drake May,
right,
and you're just happy with either one of them, then you can move around a little bit and maybe still get one of those 2 guys. Yeah. But, I would not do that.
Yeah, I couldn't trust them.
I just want the Drake. That's what I want.
The Drake?
So you're into May.
It's got to be May?
It's got to be May.
Oh my
God. Say it right.
I know nothing against Daniels.
It's got to be May.
He's a little bit younger. He's a little bit less experienced, which is allows you to believe that you'll have a little bit more time with him and there's more development to be happening. Evan was pointing out, it took Jaden Daniels a while. He's a little bit older. I mean, I'd take him. I'm not gonna, I'm not knocking him to say I don't want him. That's why my preference goes a little bit towards Drake May.
I will say with Jaden Daniels, I love how this time last year, no one would have guessed that Jaden Daniels would have been a top 3 pick.
Right.
And seeing how much he was able to grow in 1 year at LSU, that makes me excited about the potential for him to keep growing.
Yeah, but it scares me because he's 24. He's like the PG at prep school who's just older than everybody, and he's more experienced, and
there's a lot of those
surrounded
guys.
with elite talent.
I see both sides of that. Mm-hmm. I see the excitement from Tamara, and I see the trepidation. I mean, Joe Burrow did it and worked wonderfully.
So did Baker.
Guys just sort of come out of nowhere. They have a great year, and then other guys, you look back and you're like, we probably shouldn't have fallen for that. The other two guys were, 2 years ago, everybody thought that Williams and May were the best two quarterbacks in the class.
I think that's a really good question for somebody like Elliot Wolf, is like, how much do you put into the 2022 tape for Drake May? Because in 22 he has Josh Downs, he has a little bit better offensive line, and there was no question coming out of that season that he was the second best quarterback in this class. This year, he loses some of those guys. Their UNC offense has a new offensive coordinator. There's a lot going on around him that isn't as good, and he wasn't as good or as consistent this past season, whereas Jaden Daniels had the ascension. So if you flip those two seasons...
And the talent around him.
If you flip those two seasons, then how do people feel about these two guys? And if you put Jaden Daniels at UNC and you put Drake May at LSU, and Drake May is throwing to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., are we even having this conversation that they're this close together? So I think that those are the types of things that you have to ask yourself with those two guys in particular, is how much of Jaden Daniels' breakout had to do with the fact that he's throwing to 2 first-round picks at wide receiver versus Drake May's best receiver is probably going to be like a 3rd or 4th round pick.
And again, same thing with Burrow.
Yeah.
Like when Burrow was at LSU that year, that record-setting year,
probably the best offensive college football history.
Stacked across the board. You could certainly say, well, was it Justin Jefferson, or is it Jamar Chase, or is it Joe Burrow?
Right.
Turns out it was all of them.
Right.
Yeah. Except Terrace Marshall.
They were all.
He's actually bad.
Sticking with quarterbacks, I think the Steelers made an interesting move in bringing in Fields, and with Russell Wilson, I mean, I think it's a perfect situation. You play Wilson this year. Fields gets another year to just sit, kind of decompress and watch, and then next year you get rid of Wilson and you play Fields.
Well, you'll have
So you're
to sign him.
Fifth-year,
Yeah.
You're going to pick up the 5th-year
Oh,
option?
is that right?
Oh, yeah. He's the same as Max, so it's it's.
Well, I don't know. Maybe in practice they'll be able to make that evaluation if he's worth it.
Well, you
They
have to pick it up
do
by
that.
May.
Yeah, they have to do that
Obviously-
before then.
Yeah.
Well,
Obviously, I'm extremely biased, but that was a steal for Pittsburgh to be able to get Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick next year.
Right.
Like, if you look at people were laughing at their quarterback room from last season, and to see how they completely flipped it to those two guys this year, it's a work
So
of art.
just
Work
to be
of art.
clear, if he plays, it's
Yeah.
a 4th-round pick.
Oh wow!
If he plays half the snaps, it's,
Yeah.
So
That's still a pretty good.
otherwise, if he doesn't play, then you traded a 6th-round pick for a backup quarterback, which is that's normal.
I never sensed
But if he plays, it's going to be a higher pick.
I never really sensed the unrest with Kenny Pickett, though. Was that something I just
Oh,
missed?
yeah.
Like, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that he was that much
Very
on the
Mac
outs.
Jonesy situation there.
Oh.
The
Yeah.
gloves, they just got.
Well, I
seen him
think he
wearing
got a
gloves.
little bit bent out of shape late last season when he got hurt, and that's why Mason Rudolph started playing. And then when he was healthy, they were like, "Yeah, we're doing all right with Mason Rudolph. Why don't you sit over there?"
Wasn't
And I think
happening.
he was like, "Okay, I'm out."
He got a raw deal.
A little bit.
Bad coordinator, not a ton of talent around him in certain spots. Like, they had good receivers always in Pittsburgh, but offensive line issues. But Matt Canada should not have been an NFL offensive coordinator, and he was there for 2 years. So that was tough. But I love it for the Steelers. I'm not losing any sleep over the fact that the Patriots didn't trade for Justin Fields. The Steelers are not in a position to draft one of the quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
So they are taking their upside swing on Justin Fields versus the Patriots have the 3rd overall pick. I'd much rather take Drake May or Jaden Daniels than put my eggs in a Justin Fields basket right
so
now.
I totally agree. I like it a lot for the Steelers. I think they're also two, sort of similarly mobile, athletic kind of quarterbacks, although Wilson doesn't move anywhere near as much and as well as he used to. So I think there's some replication there if you need your backup quarterback. But Tamara, tell Uncle Mike that I think it's a mistake. Some of the reports have come out that Pittsburgh is adamant, and I don't know if it's true. It's Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Supposedly from inside the organization. It is absolutely not a competition.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Russell Wilson's job.
I saw
I
that.
think that's a big-time mistake, and I just hope that they're trying to appease a guy who, by all accounts, needs to be appeased at all times.
Right.
And
Mr.
Russell Wilson.
Unlimited.
I did think it was interesting that the report came out that as soon as they made the trade, that Uncle Mike texted him allegedly and said, "Hey, you're going to be the starter."
Right.
I think that was interesting, and I couldn't tell if it was because Kenny Pickett, when he found out that Russell was coming in, that he was like, "Okay, I want to leave." I didn't know if it was to stop any turmoil that was going to be in that locker room, and just wanted to make it clear communication. And
I
not
just
have
hope
media
that
speculating.
if they go through the off-season program
Yeah.
and they get into OTAs in minicamp it's clear that Justin Fields
Right.
is better than Russell Wilson. I
Yeah.
would hope that
Yep.
they say,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
what we said. This guy's been better than
Oh,
you.
yeah.
He's going to play.
Well, I think there's
Yeah.
some psychology going on there too, though, with Fields. Of you're the backup now, and
Mm-hmm.
what he got. So I mean, and I'm sure he's clearly aware of where he's at in terms of potentially hitting free agency next year, or does he want to? And wasn't he from Fields around there? I think doesn't he have like family? Isn't
does he?
I think.
I know. I
believe
know. He pulled a zappy.
Oh,
He started posting some workout videos. Justin Fields is.
You're
so.
hilarious.
I just feel like Justin Fields has.
What does that be?
We were all wrong about Justin Fields
I-
in the draft. I had him as QB2. Most
liked
people
him.
had him as QB2. He's not good. We were all wrong.
It doesn't
Just-
mean he wasn't QB2, though.
Right. It doesn't mean he wasn't QB2, but like we all just got to let go the dream of Justin Fields
I don't
being
know.
great.
I still
I'm still
kind of
holding
hold
it a
out
little
a
bit.
little bit.
I'm being
I-
stubborn on
Well,
this
that's
one.
but that's what
I
every
am being stubborn
so
on
many
this
people
one.
in the media are being stubborn on it. Like everybody is still believing in Justin Fields, and his film is just not
Yeah.
good. Like
So-
it's just not
it's-
good.
But
It's
how
not great, not
how
gonna
much
lie,
of
it's
that
not
though
great.
was also bad coaching as well? Because in the same situation as Kenny Pickett, he had horrible coaching in Chicago as well. And before they got DJ Moore, how many weapons did he really have?
Okay, but last year they had DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Cole Kmet. Those are three legitimate NFL weapons.
But before
And-
that, what did he have?
yeah, but like he had it all together last year. Like last year should have been the
But I thought he was decent last year. I
Down
thought
the stretch, he was
the way
better.
the way they finished the season. I thought there was some
Yeah.
promise there.
It's all-
That's why I'm kind of holding out hope.
his issues are all similar to Jaden Daniels' issues as a passer, and it's just timing, progression, speed, decision making.
No doubt, it's
And-
not great from the pocket.
and,
You
and
can't
that
make
that
an argument.
it's at the end of the day that's quarterbacking. As much as we make it all these crazy throws and back foot shots and things like that, at the end of the day you have to be able to do that. You
he's
have
got
to be
the
able
traits.
to throw on
He's
time.
got the traits that Mac doesn't have, and that's why I think
Yeah.
that people still believe in him. I mean, we saw it firsthand out here what he can do.
All right. Should we turn it to the listeners? Unless you have anything else you want to put on the table.
No, I was just going to say one thing I saw that somebody did a little study, which I always like. Just what percentage of quarterbacks drafted at certain portions of the first round, and how many of them reached the playoffs. And I think it was 58%. Top 5 quarterbacks, 58% go on to make a playoff
like
game.
that.
So
Seems like a lot.
it does. It's just, but
Don't
it's
tell me my
still,
odds.
it's still even in the top 5. It's a little bit of a coin flip with these guys. And
I think those are pretty good odds.
Yeah,
We
I mean,
really-
from when you hear that they're all busts, and then you find out that it's almost 60% of those guys at least make the playoffs. I think a lot of people, as an example, would count Baker Mayfield as a bust.
Yeah.
Well, he took 2 different teams to the playoffs.
Well, I certainly hear a lot about Trevor Lawrence being a bust. Like
Absolutely.
I tweeted the other day that a thumbs up on Trevor Lawrence, and people were like, "Why are we giving?" It's like because he's an NFL quarterback. Like he's a starting quarterback in the league. Whether
I still take
But
it.
I know, I was
he
gonna
can
say it's
play.
Fred's
too.
guy.
He's had a modicum of success. He finished. He's like the opposite of Justin Fields. He finished last year really slow, but it was clear that ankle injury that he suffered in the
Right.
Monday night game
Right.
Oh.
impacted the rest of his season.
Yeah, it's just there's a conversation now to sort of what Deuce was saying about quarterback evaluations in the league. I saw Bucky Brooks tweeting about it. I think maybe Daniel Jeremiah started it of just like why is it so difficult to evaluate that position, and why is it so difficult to develop that position in the league? And it's an interesting chicken or the egg. Is it that these guys aren't very talented, or is it that the coaching and the infrastructure and the personnel department in these teams all fail them? And I think a lot of people feel like the NFL has a development problem at the quarterback position because all these guys are good in college and they're good in high school, and then they get to the NFL and they can't play. And so at some point you have to stop blaming the players and start thinking about what are the teams doing wrong to develop these guys.
Yeah, especially like when you look at that whole list of the 2021 quarterbacks, and you're like, how did all of them but Trevor Lawrence fail? Like it's just weird when you look at the whole list, and it's like, how did that happen?
To
all
me,
these
that's
guys?
that's my thing. Is like I think our bar for evaluating these quarterbacks, is determined by the crop, and I think we think every year there has to be good quarterbacks coming out of the draft, and that doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably not a coincidence that the year after that, which was a really, really bad first round, right?
Yeah.
You go
Just
1
Kenny
for
Pickett.
5. The year after that, there's only one guy chosen in the first round.
Yeah.
So I think the teams probably did a better job of saying, I'm not going to force the pick. I'm not
Right.
going to make Kenny Pickett a top 5 pick just
Yeah.
because he's the best quarterback in the class. But it also probably is just kind of, circumstantial. it comes a year after 5 different teams took it. No one's going to pull the plug on a rookie immediately unless it's like Jamarcus Russell bad, or Ryan Leaf bad. There's not too many guys that fail that badly right away that you're like already looking the next year for another quarterback.
That was kind of what
some do.
Where
but
I
not-
was
not a
going
lot.
with it is just teams that we need a quarterback. We're picking in the late first round, and we don't really believe in Michael Penix. But Michael Penix is there,
Right.
and it's that like to have the courage to say we don't really believe in him, even though that we need a quarterback and there's really no one else after him,
It's a great
so to
point,
speak.
Mike.
Like, how do you get to that point?
And somehow teams, I think, talk themselves into, well, it's 28. Yeah, who cares? I do.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a really good player at 28, especially if a lot of quarterbacks are taken, because that means all the rest of the positions haven't been picked at as much as they
Well,
normally
it's
probably should have been.
It's the whole risk-reward thing. If he pops, we got a bargain. If he doesn't,
Yeah.
Or
But I don't know why it's not like if the wide receiver we take at 28 pops,
Yeah.
we have a bargain. Why isn't that?
That's what I was
going
going to say. I was going to say to get a good wide receiver at 28, I'd rather take that and start building the pieces so that when I have a quarterback that I'm sure about, then
Yep.
I'll select that one.
I just think it's easy for us to sit here and be patient because
Yeah, jobs aren't on the line.
our jobs aren't on the line, and we're going to hopefully
And
be
this
here
is
for the next
different.
100 years.
When you're at 3, it's different.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Oh,
late,
yeah.
late
Yeah.
first.
I-
round.
I get it, but I think that that's a big thing too. I feel like is just you might only have a couple years to figure it out if you're an Elliott Wolf, right? Like you're not going to get 10 years to just keep on kicking the can down the road on the quarterback. So at some point you have to take a swing. And I think a lot of these teams just get into these positions where it's like, all right, well we've been doing this for a couple years. We still don't have the quarterback. We got to take the swing.
Yeah.
Nick Caserio in Houston picked the right guy. But that was year 3 for him. If he doesn't pick C.J. Stroud, or if C.J. Stroud ends up being a bust, does Nick Caserio have a job right now? Like, probably not.
Yeah, but that's like, it's just if the person making the pick in their heart of hearts really doesn't love the player, and is just, it's that tipping point of I really don't like
Isn't
this
that what
guy,
happened here with
you know?
Mac?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't think Bill was in love with Mac Jones.
He's kind of like a great example of that.
I
I
think
think
he was in like with him.
But you
what
would
if
think you would think though that with his relationship to Saban, he would have gotten solid scouting on him.
But what if you love the player but you don't have the right developer?
Yeah.
So what if that was the pick, but then you just didn't have the right coach?
I think that happens too.
Yeah. Like,
I don't think
first
it happened
year
to him, but I think it has happened.
First
to
year the quarterback
players.
does okay, and then second year, like his coordinator is a guy from the defense. Like,
You're not allowed to do that. After the way you talked for the last 2 years, you're not allowed to make those kind of.
You thanks, Matt Patricia.
You're not allowed to do Paul Snart. That was Paul Snart.
My
He's not allowed
point
for
there
that.
is that I still think we should thank Matt Patricia. He didn't lobby for the job; he was asked to do it, and
You don't know that. He might have lobbied for
it's
it.
no fault of his own. Let's see. Matt Framingham's fed up.
Uh-oh.
Next person who tells me the Patriots don't need to spend a lot this offseason because they're going to be bad should ask the players and coaches on the team what they think of that. The careers of players and coaches are short in this league, especially if you keep losing. Because the rest of the league is watching, I'm disappointed in this free agency period, and I believe this team is doing a lot of wishing, especially with the 3rd pick coming up in the draft. So they're doing a lot of wishing.
This might be going down a rabbit hole I don't want to go down, but I think I saw somebody kind of make the comparison, and I'm not trying to make it the saying that this team will go to the Super Bowl next year, but it does kind of smell a little bit like the 01 Patriots free agency class to me and certainly not even the external guys. It was almost like they signed their own guys that were kind of the Anthony Jennings's. Not that he's going to be Mike Vrabel, but he was kind of like the third-man rotational linebacker that didn't get a ton of playing time. I don't know. I just see some parallels, and I think right now it's really a hot-button topic to talk about Bill Belichick and how he would build the team, but I don't think that he was necessarily wrong in 2001 to approach it the way that he did to remake that team, to reestablish kind of a new core, and then go into the draft and draft, Richard Seymour, who's a future Hall of Famer, Matt Light, who stepped right in at left tackle. But I think what stands out to me is the Patriots, they didn't think they were there in 01. They were surprised that team got there. They knew that they had to completely change things. That Super Bowl was a surprise. I'm not trying to sell the emailer that they're going to the Super Bowl this year, but I think that there is some element to team building that they're taking from that 2001 kind of philosophy.
Yeah, I don't completely disagree with you, but I think that this is more about the retain. That they wanted no part. They wanted to get rid of as many players as they like. They had a lot of older guys that they didn't. Chris Slade, Ben Coates, Bruce Armstrong, over the 2000, 2001 seasons. I'm going to use both. I'm just the start of the Belichick era. So they weren't all in 2001, but they wanted to move past some of those guys. They had an awful lot of talent on that team coming back that people do not remember. It was a waiver wire Super Bowl title. But you tell me where Ty Law, Teddy Bruschi, Willie McGinnis, Lawyer Malloy, Troy Brown, Ted Johnson, they didn't have those guys aren't on this roster.
But that's all
like
defense
guys,
though.
But that was already here.
Like if I was going to make the argument of, not to say Gonzalez is Ty Law, but they certainly have some talent on defense, and that offense wasn't good. I know different games, but
like I worry a little bit about the defense with Bill Belichick gone. To be honest with you,
I do too.
Yeah. I don't think they have the players that are just going to win matchups. I think they were putting really good spots.
I agree.
Now, if that wasn't Bill Belichick and it was more Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington, great. I think the defense will be solid.
Right.
They might miss something.
Or
because I don't think man for man that was a great defense.
No, I think they, like Bill has always done. I think they game plan really well. Went at the opponent's offensive weaknesses really well. Matched up. Figured out the matchups from play to play almost, or series to series anyway. And you got to believe a lot of that was Bill.
Yeah.
Or
sure.
And how much of it was Steve? So you hope that it carried on to DeMarcus and Gerard, but you don't know. There's no guarantees there.
Yeah, I am with Mike though. They're pretty talented on defense. Like you look at their not just their starters, but their two deep is as deep as any team in the league.
Yeah,
like
I just don't see that. I mean, I guess we can disagree on that.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're Ty Law and Richard Seymour, but like in terms of comparing it to the rest of the league, I mean they're pretty solid on defense in pretty much every area. Like where's their weakness on defense? Maybe free safety. Like I guess is if you don't really love those safeties back there.
I don't know. Like up front, they have Christian Barmore. Like Dietrich Wise is better than guys around the league. Jawan Bentley's better than guys around the league. Giovanni Tavai's better than guys around the league.
Jonathan
Jones is better.
I'm not saying that.
I'm
not saying Jawan Bentley is Fred Warner, but like in terms of what they do in the system within the scheme that they're playing.
Now that I agree with.
They're
and I'd
all
be curious
really
to see if that system remains in place. That's what I'm concerned about.
That's fair.
I think they were very well coached and very well schooled. I don't think man for man. I think Gonzalez has a chance to be that. I think he has a chance to be one of those guys that any team would say, "Oh, I'd like Christian Gonzalez."
And Barmore.
I think Barmore is one of those guys.
Yeah.
I think he is a guy that any team would say, "Well, I'll take him as an interior."
And I still think, even though he's getting a little bit old, I still think Judon's one of those guys. Yep. So if you're talking about you go into next year, assuming Judon's here, and you have three guys that are blue chip players on the defensive side of the ball, like that's not.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all. I mean, there are not a lot of defenses around the league that have that.
Yeah, and I think one of the sneaky good re-signings they had, I know you'll probably kill, is Anthony Jennings.
That's my favorite one.
I think he's gotten better. He's been in an upward trajectory. I think he can play against the run. I think he's decent against the rushing as well. I think he's a pretty versatile player, and I'm glad they brought him back.
I've said that's one of my, for better or worse, that's one of my favorite signings. But I think it is worth pointing out though that this team has really struggled to stop Josh Allen on defense. That has really struggled to stop Tua Tagovailoa. I think Paul is totally right. I think they have some things on defense that they need to sort out. But when we're talking about Bill and coming up with the secret sauce to beat those teams, they haven't really been able to find that secret sauce, whether it's coaching, whether it's players. So whatever it is, that's something
Miami,
that they
especially
had to
like Buffalo, they've had they had the win here last year, and I think a lot of that stems from you don't have an offense that can keep up with the Bills, and at the end of the day, he's going to score 24 points. Yeah. So if
they did do better, I thought, in the two games against Buffalo this past year.
Miami, they have no chance against Miami.
That might have been a Buffalo thing because they weren't quite as explosive this year as they have been.
But they got nothing on Miami.
No, really don't.
Tyler in New York City says, I do not think the Patriots will take a quarterback with the third overall. During the free agency this year, Mayo and Wolf were clear that they wanted a big weapon in this offense and were unable to get any. 2 straight years we have lost a wide receiver bidding war to the Titans. For whatever reason, New England, whether under Bill Belichick or Gerard Mayo, is unable to attract star power at that position. But do you know where you can get guaranteed star power at the wide receiver position with the number 3 overall pick?
No.
You don't even have to compete with the Titans. If Mayo and Wolf are leery about adding a quarterback to a roster that has so many holes, none of which were plugged or addressed at all in free agency, and have enough self-awareness to know that they can't attract star power at the moment, then they need to draft some star power, whether it's MHJ at 3 or someone else at 6 or 11. I think the Patriots are going to take the safe star power and get the QB later.
It's not safe star power. There's no such thing. Like, he could be the best player in the draft, or Malik Neighbors could be, as Daniel Jeremiah tweeted yesterday. So what if he's the best receiver and you took Harrison? Maybe he's great anyway. Maybe you got the 2, maybe they turn out to be the 2 best players in the draft and no one cares. It won't matter if you don't have anybody to throw it to him, though.
That's the bottom line for me. I've said it 100 times, and I'll probably say it 100. These 2 guys are worth missing on. Like, if they draft Jaden Daniels or Drake May, it doesn't work. They can't figure it out for whatever reason. Okay, but I think they're both worth.
I'll tell you a line of thought. Sorry, Ev.
No, go ahead.
Just doing the mailbag this week, and there were a lot of questions this week. I mean, obviously this draft, that's, you have the 3rd pick of the draft, but I was surprised there's a tenor among the questions that are sort of hopeful about Jacoby Brissett that I just don't understand.
Oh, you should read my film review tomorrow.
I really just don't understand how anybody could have watched the last 7 years of Jacoby Brissett.
Did you watch him in Cleveland in 22 with this coaching staff?
Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched him against the Patriots. One of the worst games I've seen.
So that's one game. He started 11 of them. That was his worst game by far.
Yeah. I mean, I watched him underthrow about 17 wide open guys in that game, starting with like the 2nd play of the game.
He did not play well in that game. That's fair.
And he is below 500 for 7 years. He's never had a winning season.
He's never had a winning team.
Not one.
Deshaun Watson did so much better in 2022 than Jacoby Brissett.
It's not about Deshaun Watson. I'm talking about Jacoby Brissett. When he plays, he doesn't play well.
He outplayed Deshaun
Period.
Watson.
Okay, great.
Okay, keep it going.
Deshaun Watson's not on the team. Deshaun Watson's in Cleveland. I'm talking about the Patriots quarterback. There's a tenor that I felt, and maybe Evan got them started based on this this argument.
He's better than I think he's better than you think. That's all.
I think he's worse than people think. I think people haven't watched him. I just think people haven't watched him, and they just think that the Patriots took him and he's got the magic sauce.
Or
I just don't think he's a very good player. He's a stopgap who I would hope plays about 5 or 6 games max, and then whoever we pick at 3 gets plugged in.
Do you think
that's my ideal situation?
I have seen this like random spark of hope from people. Like I was at a salon or something, and someone was like, "My husband said the Patriots signed a quarterback," and I was confused by the enthusiasm. Like she was really excited.
People don't. They just see quarterback.
Yeah, and I was like, I could see why you could be happy like to have a competent guy back out there, but he's not the answer.
No.
It's just
no one is saying he's the answer.
I don't think he's any more.
Some
people are.
Some people are talking.
I'm not saying
no. He's not
this
an
is
answer.
what I'm trying to talk. Some people are talking themselves into it.
Yeah. On the field, he's nothing more than what Paul said, a stopgap. However, did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, people think he's a stopgap. However,
no, I think on the field he's nothing more than a stopgap.
Yeah.
However, in the quarterback room, he elevates that room immediately in terms of quality. Like everybody who's worked with him says how amazing he is as a teammate and a person. And I think, again, I know this is not sexy to talk about, but Gerard has to worry about the locker room. That's part of his job. And you're bringing in a quality person who can be a stopgap into the quarterback room that was in havoc. It was It was a terrible room last year. So right there, he's upgraded at least the room. If you if the plan is to bring in a young quarterback, that's a must. You need a veteran presence in there that's a quality person. And for that reason, I think it was a good signing.
Yeah, I just think that he's more than just a clipboard holder. That's all. Like, I agree with you 100%. and I made that point in the film review I'm publishing tomorrow about him, that yes, there's good habits that he brings to the table, whether it's during the week, even in game. Like you see him blocking 40 yards downfield on reverses and stuff like that. Now, I don't want the third overall pick to necessarily do that, but it's the effort thing, right, that he puts out there every single day. I think that Jacoby Brissett's better than Paul does. That's it. You look at 2022 in this offense with Alex Van Pelt, with the Browns, he was 8th in QBR. He was basically a top 15, 16 quarterback in the league during his starts with the Cleveland Browns statistically. He's 8th in QBR. He's 12th in PFF grade. He was 10th in EPA per dropback. Like, all the numbers are right there telling you that this guy was playing well for the Browns. And now, is he the answer? Is he a long-term solution at the position? Of course not. But the point is that he's a very capable player in the role that they're going to ask him to play.
Do you think that those numbers can be kind of managed by being conservative?
No, because he threw a lot of big time throws down the field too. I mean, like it just.
What about game winning drives?
That was his one Achilles. His one Achilles is he had 2 games, one against the Jets, one against the Dolphins, ironically, where he threw picks on game winning drive attempts. One of them, the Jets one, was like 13 seconds left, and they were 20 yards out of field goal range, and he tried to fit one into a tight window, and it got intercepted. The Dolphins one was bad. He threw a pick in the end zone. That was pretty bad. But you look at his numbers, you look at some of the film that he's able to put out. Is he the long-term answer? No, of course not. But is he a very capable stopgap quarterback for next year? I think the biggest thing to me is you don't need to rush the number 3 overall pick onto the field.
Do you think he's better than Mac Jones could be?
All of this I agree with.
Do you think he's better than Mac Jones could be someday?
I think that Jacoby Brissett in 2022 was better quarterback play than what they got out of the last 2 years from Mac and Bailey Zappi.
See, what you said about the locker room makes this the proper move.
Right.
But I don't think he's any better than Mac Jones. I don't.
Oh.
It's just you don't want to rush the 3rd overall pick on the field, and I don't think they're going to feel like they have to.
I totally agree
because
with that.
Jacoby Brissett's terrible.
Yeah, get him off the field.
I'm totally with that. Like, this is a professional backup who will hold the spot until you want. You don't have to until you want to. And there's probably not a ton of pressure to, try to win 14 games. Like I think people are realistic and they understand it's going to be slow.
A couple important messages. First, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go to the next message, which is whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com, physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details in state-specific responsible gaming or gambling resources. All right, back to the listeners. Let's go to the Ace Ticket Hotline. Christian in L.A. is on the line. What's up, Christian?
Hey, how you guys doing today? Great discussion. I'll start out by saying I am absolutely sick and beside myself with this regime already. It seems like they've overvalued Duggar and missed on the free safeties. It seems like they are doing the same stupid thing by trying to plug people into positions that they don't really play on you because they want to get a value or something like this. You got Cole Strange, who is absolutely not qualified to be a starting guard. And then we do the same thing at receiver that we've always done. We don't really push the envelope to spend the big money, but we get a guy who's almost good enough to be good. And now we're in position at number 3 to take a quarterback who's almost good enough to be great or elite, but he's really not, right? And so now we're going to just go another year or two waiting and hoping for these guys to turn into what we should have just actually went out and got. I think the most intangible thing, and I'll wrap up with this, is every Super Bowl winning, playoff winning quarterback, the guys that get really up there, have one intangible. you can say this guy's unusually this. You know, like Josh Allen, unusually strong. Patrick Mahomes, unusually dexterous. Lamar Jackson, unusually athletic. Even back to Joe Montana and all those guys. When you look at Drake May and Jaden Daniels, who are our current two possible choices, what are they unusually good at?
Well, I think
Drake
Daniels
May has a lot of those traits.
Yeah.
And I would say Daniels does too. I
Yeah.
agree with Fred.
No, I think they each have traits that are putting them in the first round.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
And I would disagree that Drake May.
Not NFL throws.
What?
I've watched their team. I haven't seen a NFL throw. I've seen them throw to open guys. Hey, great.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of
So,
NFL throws.
couldn't
from
you
both
say
of
the
them,
same
but
thing
especially
about
May.
Lamar Jackson? You just mentioned Lamar Jackson. You mentioned his dexterity or whatever
No,
it was.
his athleticism.
Athleticism. So he
Like
didn't,
what?
he
Out of
wa- he didn't-
curiosity,
he
you
didn't
said
get
Joe Montana the same thing. What was his extraordinary thing?
coolness. But
Oh, really? So that was something you identified in
no,
college?
I'm joking. But I think with Lamar Jackson, he didn't have NFL throws on his tape.
So I would
But he
just
has athleticism.
Right. So does Jaden Daniels.
and Drake May.
Yeah.
Like these
Look,
guys
if
are
you guys-
really
if
good
you guys-
athletes.
You guys believe in them? Hey, great. I don't believe.
I'm not
I
telling you
believe those
believe
players
or not believe.
in the
I'm just
NFL
telling you
level.
there's NFL talent for both of them.
Yeah.
Like you're saying that they're not quite good enough to be good. Well, Drake May might
Be
miss.
great, I said.
Drake,
They're
no,
not
you
quite
said
good
no.
enough
You
to be
said good. They're not quite good enough to be good. That's what you said.
I said
And
the
Drake
players that
May
we're getting are
is
other players.
more than talented enough to be an excellent player. Whether he is or not is going to rely on all the other things that we have no way of knowing. Does he have an aptitude for the position? Does he have the ability to put bad plays behind him immediately? Is he clutch? Is he understanding and adapting to when teams make adjustments to him and he's got the answers to? There's a lot of things that go into being good. Talent will not be the reason why Drake May fails.
And
if
even
he fails.
even a guy so like if you and thanks for the call, Christian.
Like Drake May
But-
is
but-
one of the more talented guys that you'll see. His upside is through the roof.
But if you look
doesn't
at-
mean he's going to be great.
if you look at the thesis that he's presenting, anybody who's going to be great has that thing early on that you can point to that's his secret sauce. Like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow in his last year started winning and producing, but was there any one thing that Joe Burrow did that was like elite? No, he just did it all pretty good. And then
I think he did, but
yeah.
that's me. But there was questions for him
Yeah.
about all the stuff
supporting
we talked
talent.
about
But
20 minutes ago.
his difference that we found out once he got here was up here. It's
His
upstairs.
skills are ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's when I mentioned that
Pocket
all this
presence.
conversation about why these quarterbacks fail is are making the rounds today. I feel like it's all the things that Paul was kind of getting at, which is we don't know about their competitive toughness. We don't know about their work ethic. We don't know about how they're wired. Like we can watch them on film, we can watch the highlights, and we can say, oh, this guy can do this guy can do that. But what makes all of these guys truly great is this like maniacal competitiveness.
Let me just use this one thing as an example. No right or wrong answers here, but how would you say Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray compare, like physically, athletically? Pretty comparable.
Yeah.
Sure,
Athletically.
yeah.
Why do you think Lamar Jackson is so much better than Kyler
Because
Murray?
he's 6 inches taller.
No, I also,
That's a reason.
That's one reason.
That's a reason,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to say it's the only one.
but I also think he was on a better team. That
Okay, I'm going to say it's
That
it's,
built
it's all the
around
stuff
him.
that Evan just talked
Yeah,
about with work ethic and
Mental toughness.
Writing into his contract, he can't play video
his
games.
willingness to learn and watch film and
Absolutely.
study and be
Yep.
prepared and
Yep.
do all the stuff that it takes to be a great quarterback.
Yep.
And I don't know that based on reports. I don't know Kyler Murray. Might be unfair. I'm going off reports that may or not be accurate, but that's not his reputation.
right.
Like
No.
I think athletically, I think Christian would have said athletically. That's the one thing that makes him athletic. I mean, this is a guy that was going to be a number one draft pick in baseball too.
Yeah.
This guy's athleticism is through the roof, but yet he's not as good as Lamar Jackson. Why is that?
He's not as pretty to watch run either. I mean, Lamar
And
Jackson.
by the way,
is like,
Arizona, 3 years ago, had as good a team as anybody in football. Talent-wise,
Till
they were
Thanksgiving.
they were at the top of the league with like one loss, right?
Yeah.
There was like one loss. They were as talented as anybody. So it's not like he didn't go to Cleveland and was never heard from again. It wasn't just about that. There's a drive that Tom Brady has that other people don't. It's not just like having that elite ability.
But I think Mac is an interesting one too, because I feel like he was one of those guys that has a lot of drive but doesn't have a lot of talent. And that was kind of the question going into this year was, can you work hard enough to elevate yourself? And I mean, he's a special case and all that, but I never faulted him his work ethic.
I
don't
definitely
think at
find
this
myself
position.
doing that, though.
I don't think at this position you can do it on just
No.
heart.
No.
Want to.
No.
You
Yeah.
know.
It's not a want
But
to.
I feel like
it's
you
can't.
have to have like mental toughness too. So I think like there's another asset to it in terms of like you can be a hard worker, you can have the talent, but if you're not mentally tough, you're not going to survive in this league.
And processing speed.
Yeah.
Like how do you replicate that in a tryout? You can't until there's a fear of getting killed.
Right.
You can't replicate
When
that.
And
processing
Drake may not have any of those talents.
Yeah.
And I count them as talents, not just intangible.
Yeah, I think a lot of the to the caller, what's Lamar or what's Jaden Daniels' superpower? His athleticism. You said that for Lamar Jackson. It's true. Jaden Daniels is one of the best runners in college football since Lamar Jackson.
I agree.
Yeah, Drake May, what's his superpower? Is his arm talent. The guy,
his sheer size.
yeah,
like his
I mean
physicality.
the guy has an absolute howitzer. Like he can throw it off his back foot. He can throw it 80 yards in the air. Like that's what he's got going for him is pure gas, pure arm talent, and that's you can't teach that. It's got something that he's the prototype. He's Josh Allen. He's Justin Herbert. He's 6'4". He's 225 pounds, and he's got a huge arm. Like he's the prototype.
Like some of these guys, I think you get talked into, and they do lack some physical abilities. And maybe Bryce Young is one of these guys that is just flat out not big enough to play at the NFL level without the ability to move around and run, and they probably, at his size, don't want him doing that a lot, right? So there might be some but most of these guys are off the charts in terms of physical ability, but some of them don't hit.
Yeah,
Why
I
is
think
that?
like Mac, this draft class
He's probably not one of them.
It's
that
because
has a
we're
lot of
back into
physical
this whole
ability.
thing, unfortunately. Like with Mac, I think the one thing that I did learn is, to Deuce's point, that's not enough. Like you have to have a baseline foundation of physical skills in this level. You can't just be, Mac coming out was the worker, he was the processor, he was the decision maker, he was the guy, that he's going to play, chess at the line of scrimmage and do all that's all well and good, but this isn't, you're not sitting with a Madden controller. Like you have to actually go out there and actually make
I think that
the throw.
was Christian's point, but I think that by using Jaden Daniels and Drake May as examples was wrong.
Right.
They do have physical
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah.
Well, like, so dexterity or something, abnormal dexterity.
I
was
have
Mahomes'
no idea what
superpower.
that is.
See, he can pick up like
what do
very
you think
small
Zach
things.
Wilson's superpower is?
That's what I was
Abnormal dexterity. Do you
Yeah.
ever see the angles
Mills.
that he's made some of those? Wow.
Oh,
That's what we
God.
He's
call-
always working
That
blue.
would-
He's always
Wow.
working
I was
blue.
going to say
Yeah.
something really smart, and then you just had to do that.
All right. We'll take a break. Everybody's food is here except Paul's. So we'll come back after that.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
As I think back over the past few seasons, I wanted to thank my most trusted game day teammate, Tostitos. As I recall the last-minute grocery runs and late-night dishwashing, the salty defeats and spicy victories, I realized it was all thanks to my teammate, Tostitos. It was always you, Tostitos. Team up with Tostitos, the official chip and dip of the New England Patriots.
And we are back with another edition of the PU Halftime Show. I'm joined by Chris Casti. I can say, as always, I'm getting you down here a bunch. So
That's nice.
Co-host.
I appreciate that.
All right, we start with some trivia as always. Chris, don't answer it, although we came up with these together. Before I answer, send your answers in the web radio at patriots.com to win probably something. Question 1. What college did Richard Seymour go to? All right. Question 2, who won the 1998 Rose Bowl? And question 3, what number, jersey number, did Rohan Davey wear? A legend of the game. All right? Chris shaking his head. Chris doesn't even know who that is.
No idea.
All right. As we said last time, the new league year started a couple days ago. And with that comes some rule change proposals. All right? And so every year these get submitted. And not every single one gets put in, Chris. And some of these have some of these clubs have pretty good ideas, and they vote on them. So, for example, the Eagles put in request to permit a team to maintain possession of the ball after score by substituting one offensive play, 4th and 20, from the kicking team's 20-yard line for an onside kick attempt. That's an example of one. And, Chris, this is done because the onside kick has been ruined. It never hits anymore. Honestly, it's absurd. And so these teams need a way to get the ball back. And so we're not going to go through all of the rules brought in, but we thought it'd be fun to maybe go over some rule changes that we'd add to the league.
Well, you mentioned the onside kick one, Tease.
Yeah.
And, I mean, yes, they don't hit, but at the same time, when they do, you're like, oh, that was sick.
Yeah, well, they used to, Chris, I don't know if you remember, in the 2010s, they used to hit all the time. All right. Like it's now it's just like you're it's like a lottery hit, and it barely works.
They didn't hit all the time.
They hit more than now.
I think a big thing with the onside kick though is how creative teams try to be with it. Like they set up two people on both sides of the ball. Like I'm gonna kick it to the left, then I'll kick it with my back heel. Now it doesn't go 10 yards. Now everybody's scrambling to try to get the ball, try to wait for it to go 10 yards, and if it does, the other team just picks it up anyways.
They change it because of player safety, and I hate to be the old man. Like,
yeah,
I know I'm turning into one, but like, listen, at some point, it's a contact sport, and just bring back the old onside kick. But that's not going to happen. So these teams need to find out a way to get the ball back, and it's just kind of crazy though, because if you have a player like Mahomes, like 4th and 20, he gets 3rd and 20s all the time. So it could be electric, but I don't know.
It's harder than you think, though, I feel like.
Oh, obviously, but the teams will find a way to get it done. But anyways, some rule changes I'd like to see. And so I forget what team it was, they submitted that the play clock shows tenths of a second, or maybe it was just the overall scoreboard for the final 2 minutes and a half. I think that'd be electric. But to go off that, I think they need to incorporate a buzzer for the play clock, because it's really just being the ref looking at the eyes. Think about how many times the play clock expires and the ref looks, but the ball's already snapped. If there was a buzzer, I don't know. I think a lot of things would change.
I agree with that. I think the buzzer is a good play there. I mean, it makes a big difference in basketball, like being able to hear it and, hanging onto the ball for too long. You get penalized, and also looks way worse on you when you hear that buzzer. You're like, oh, no.
And, hey, I'm be transparent here. The Pats, we've gotten lucky. I forget if it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. We had one where the play clock expired, and it just snapped. It just, it's the rules. And now we're just having a ref where we already have ref situations.
Yeah.
Give them some help. To go off that, too, we got to get rid of the chain gang. All right? I know it's a football staple, but it is 2024. Put some damn sensors in the ball. We're going with this invisible yellow line. Chris, you really think
I'm a chain guy.
You're a chain guy?
I'm a chain guy, yeah.
And you don't want any backup, because there are times you'll see it, players will move the ball back, refs, you're having the 65-year-old man spot the ball with millions of dollars on the line because of all the gambling and stuff, and he's like, oh, I'm going to push back a little, and it's game vintage, I know, but it doesn't need to be. We can have some set-in-stone stuff here.
I mean, you know who does a good job of that is tennis. Tennis does a really good job of that with their VR, and kind of immediately, if there's a close play, they go to it. They go, nope, that was out.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next thing. But I think you don't want to change football too much.
Okay.
And a big reason behind that is everybody that has grown up with it are so used to everything. Like, change is good. Like, there has been changes. Like, change is very good in a lot of senses. Or a lot of ways, I should say. But I think changing the little intricate things like that, a little bit different.
There was a time without instant challenging the play, right?
Yeah.
If people didn't like it at first. Could you imagine not being able to challenge a play now, Chris?
I think I have been alive for the entire time that you've been able to challenge plays. So I can't look back on the old times like that. But I don't know. I just think the change crew makes a football game more whoa, you're more engaged, not all right, yeah, first down, game's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Something like that.
All right, so
get down to the wire. I think the chain crew actually provides more of
I don't think you need to get rid of it. It's there, but I think you can enhance it. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
All right. Any other rules, Chris? Any other things you want to add?
I mean, if I were able to change one of the NFL rules, I think I would try to add like a 3 or 4 point play.
Big XFL guy here.
Yeah. I'll tune in. It's football, right? If
Yeah.
you're a football guy, you'll tune in XFL. But in the NFL, I think trying to add a 3 or 4 point play. I mean, this is probably a crazy take that people could rip me on, but set somebody up at the 15. If they convert it, 3 points. Set them up at 25. Convert it, get 4 points. I think that's it. Like you level it at that. But I think that's difficult. I think it's engaging. I think fans are like, oh, that was actually pretty interesting seeing what they just did there. You have to develop a whole other play style. Like I kind of feel this way for the onside kick idea, where it becomes now something you're practicing rather than just a kick 10 yards, a ball going 10 yards on an onside kick, or going for 2 from the 2-yard line.
So here's are you pro kicker or anti kicker?
I'm pro kicker.
Okay.
I think it takes a lot of talent to be a kicker.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm pro kicker too. I don't like that they're being phased out. So
no,
that's my
I think
thing.
you're a soccer guy, so
Okay.
I'm like, I guess I'm pro kicker because I support UTs there. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it's something to be considered. I think what the XFL does, it's a much different brand, obviously, or now the UFL, but a much different style of football, and that's their whole point of their business, and the NFL has its own brand. So you don't want that to become the UFL.
Yep.
But at the same time, you can definitely grow.
And so one more thing is that they need to sort out these overtime rules. I hated how they did the Super Bowl. I don't like it in the regular season. We just need one solid thing. That is a story for a different day, though, Chris, because I could go on about that for 20 minutes. Listen, all these teams put in rule changes. They don't always get overturned or approved. It says all proposals must be approved by 75% of the owners to be adopted. So we'll see what happens.
Did the Patriots submit any?
I don't think we did any this year, but that's probably because we have our own crap going on. We gotta we gotta build our team before we change the rules. All right. All right, guys. Send your trivia answers into webradio@patriots.com. Chris, thanks for joining as always, and let's get back to the show.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
oh no!
Replacements were shipped with FedEx, and with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
Burton Island says, now I've heard it all. Lady Gaga should get an Academy Award because Fred Kirsch didn't know it was Lady Gaga.
That was a good one last week.
When you put it like that.
She was unrecognizable.
Didn't even look like her hair.
So give the Oscar to the makeup artist.
No, you know what I mean.
No, not really.
She was immersed in the character. I didn't realize it was her.
Yeah. What's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was a good one where he's the same guy, but it brought something kind of different to it that just it never took me out of it.
But he was never Oscar worthy because I always knew it was Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He's mad now.
Fred has that.
He's mad now.
Deuce and I know.
We know, actually.
We know.
I mean, I was in the biz, so
these rubes over here.
No, what Deuce just said made perfect
Eric,
sense.
With your experience on the stage, I would assume you would know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. Did you recognize De Niro?
Oh, absolutely.
Because he looked a little bit different too.
He's fat and old now. I mean,
well,
but it's De Niro.
It was just the part you would. I understand what your point is.
And
about
Adam, and the other one,
the
Adam Driver.
It's Adam Driver,
right? People can't see you, Fred.
Fred, it's
know what you're doing.
Prominent schnoz.
But I get your point about.
That's another great moment from.
Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. That's it. That's the tweet.
That's the tweet. Send.
You're so young and hip, Fred.
But more importantly, we're hopping toward Easter Sunday. And there's no time like the present to get party ready with Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop tons of on-trend dining sets with plenty of style and storage for all your brunching needs. And while you're here, complete the look with seasonal accents and outdoor styles made for warm weather hosting only at Bob's Discount Furniture. the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. So,
Paul, what were your Easter traditions? You guys, like the Easter Bunny come to your house, you bring your toys, just candy. You know, what was your household like?
I mean, I had an Easter basket like everybody else.
No, the kids would go on the Easter egg hunt, and the parents would bet on who's going to find more.
It's always open season on Paul.
And
Italian.
We used to have to go to that mass though. We had to go to
It's
church.
St. Joseph's Day, by the way, Paul.
Oh,
What's that?
Oh, it's a long mass. They do like the whole thing, whole like Stations of the Cross.
Did you ever have to, as a kid, have to walk the Stations of the Cross?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
With the rosary beads.
I was confirmed and everything.
I was in a church
I didn't have a lot
for
of
the
that.
second time in my life not too long ago, and I felt dirty. I was like, I'm
Really?
so sorry.
Oh, I think if I walked in now, I'd be struck by lightning.
They've changed stuff though. Like you get used to the Catholic masses. They're not the same anymore.
What, Tamara? You're looking at me like side eye.
No comment.
You're giving me the side eye.
So sorry, Jewish God.
No comment.
I'm here as a guest. I'm not doing this on purpose.
We had some trivia at halftime. I know Paul likes
excellent. It is my favorite time of the show.
to. What college? Oh, this is so easy. What college did Richard Seymour go to?
I'll eliminate myself.
MIT.
Georgia.
Georgia. Claire got it.
Hey, girl.
Someone had to say the right answer. Oh, the
Claire's cleaning up on trivia. How many times has she won?
Claire, I think we need to DQ her.
Yeah, I know.
It's like the Tom Brady commercial with Vince Vaughn now. It's like, not you, Tom.
She's got like 25 PU T-shirts.
Who won the? Well, I don't think she received any of them.
Claire's got them all.
Who won the 1998 Rose Bowl?
1998.
Michigan.
Michigan is correct.
Against Miami, right?
Why do you know that?
Tom Brady.
Because Tom Brady played in the game.
That is incorrect.
John in San Diego got it.
Is it 99?
Tom Brady didn't play in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, he did. Isn't that the
Played
big...
the Orange Bowl?
Oh, Orange Bowl. Yeah, I knew it was one of the big bowls. Big breakout.
Well, Michigan played in it.
So it would have been Brian Greasy.
Right, the year before.
I'm assuming that they're referencing the Orange Bowl that Brady played in. That was like his big
But that would have
breakout
been
game.
99.
Right.
Because that would be Brady's last year.
That's right.
Well,
could have been the 98.
yeah, I think 97 they won the national title, so it would have been the 98 Rose Bowl. I think it's Brian Greasy.
Finally, what number did Rohan Davey wear?
6.
6 is correct, and in Virginia.
It was over here.
Yeah.
They could print it on the right.
It was always off center.
I believed in Rohan Davey. I believed.
Obviously, you believe in Jacoby Brissett. Why wouldn't you believe in Rohan?
What about Michael Bishop? That was another one people
No.
believed
Now
in.
that was Paul Snark right there.
Claire says she's only won twice and she's received both shirts.
I'm back, baby.
I don't know, Claire.
Good.
If you say so.
All right, back here, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Let's get right back to the phones. Chris in Connecticut's been holding on. What's up, Chris? Chris? Oh, been holding on too long. He gave up. Todd's in North Carolina. What's up, Todd?
Hey, I know it wasn't the Chris with the TIN that called in earlier, but I think he kind of had a point with what he was saying about a quarterback. I don't think that it's a superpower you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that can elevate the people around him. And it's going to require a little bit of leadership, but it requires the skill. It's the combination of the two.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mac Jones could do that. I think Mac Jones was elevated by coaching and maybe some other people helping him. I think it's, you need somebody like an Andrew Luck, Peyton, Brady could do it. And right now you can see Mahomes can do it.
Yeah, you have to be a leader.
What's his face in Buffalo actually does it. It doesn't feel like he doesn't feel like he elevates them. It feels like he just improvises. So I think that's a quality that you really need in your quarterback. What do you guys think? Thanks, guys.
I think
Have
you
a good
do,
show.
and I think Josh Allen has it.
No, he's trash.
Yeah.
Evan.
You're supposed to.
You professed your love to him in the tunnel, and now you're calling him trash?
I can't do it with Patriots fans with Josh Allen. Like, I'm sorry, he's really, really good. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Can we all
And
just
I know
be a
that
man
hurts
and
a
admit
lot
it?
of people's feelings, but
Yeah. Like,
All the great quarterbacks are good
the
leaders.
guy's a stud.
I mean, it's
hard to be great at that spot and not be a great leader.
Right.
I agree with that premise of it, but I think these.
But that's
guys-
not what Christian was saying.
No, Christian
Yeah.
was saying that
They can't play.
you have to have the elite talent to be in that spot, and he doesn't believe that these guys do, which is fine. That's the ironic part of the whole discussion is if you don't think that Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Caleb Williams or any of these guys has the ability, that's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody has different opinions on different guys. But I just don't know how you can watch a guy play like Jaden Daniels and not say he's got elite athleticism. I don't know how you can come to that determination.
I mean, there's elevate, but I also think there's an element that guys have to want to play for you. Like, and you know, it's not like you're necessarily elevating them. It's just they're going to play hard for you. And you know, even quarterbacks who aren't necessarily the most talented, like I would say, like a Ryan Fitzpatrick is the first random example that comes to my head of just a guy that he's not great. He doesn't have a lot of, but guys like him. They want to play for him, and he won some games over the years that, especially one here that he probably shouldn't.
Not as many as he lost,
No.
but yes.
But you know
your
what
point,
I mean.
yeah, your point is absolutely valid. Like there's a guy who got the most out of what he had because of all those other things.
Oh.
Do you think?
Oh wait,
that's...
whoa! We got breaking news sounder. When news breaks, we wait for Adam Schefter
no, it's
to
not.
report.
It's Bengals are signing Trent Brown, according to Ian Rappaport.
Oh.
Okay. Anyways,
Good luck with
so
that.
do you think
mildly interesting.
Kirk Cousins falls into that like category that you were
Maybe
just
a little
talking
bit, but I think he's got. I mean, he's got more talent.
Tremendous
than Fitzpatrick.
leader,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's and. It's, I don't know. I'm trying to draw the connection between like how do you elevate guys? Like it's like you don't really elevate them. They play harder. They play better. For
right.
you.
You do elevate, but I think people feel like some of these guys are not that good. They just they're a great leader. They're scrappy. They're overachievers. But there's a level of ability that is like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Listen, Kirk Cousins isn't my cup of tea as a quarterback. I think you're limited. But he's a really good passer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's obviously smart enough to understand defenses to the level where he's had as much success as he's had in the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's ability there that's high end. Then you add in Tamara's leadership qualities that I think put him probably at a level a little bit higher, right? I mean, he's a good player. I mean, I don't love him, but he's a really good player and has been for a long time.
And there's so many instances with Kirk Cousins of like, you like that, or him with the chain dancing.
Gregory Campbell.
He's just a lovable kind of guy.
I'm still trying to figure out what game this is bugging the crap out of me.
I'm interested
don't know.
to
It's
see.
radio.
I'm interested to see him in Atlanta. Like I just feel like the whole chain thing is just going to continue to just.
That offense should be good. I mean, they have all the pieces for that offense to be really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like.
Barton Poland writes in, I'm cautiously optimistic about this offseason. When you listen to people from the outside the organization, they praise the Patriots for the moves they've made so far, for not going crazy with the money, which almost never works out in free agency in the long term. Most of the complaints come from Patriots fans, and that's understandable. The team's fans will always have a slightly skewed judgment, and it's not exclusive to Patriots fans. How many Bears fans want to lynch the front office for an objectively good move, moving on from Fields and drafting Caleb? An appeal to fans, be patient.
A little bit, but I agree with his overall point that the national media seems to be a lot higher on what the Patriots are doing than the local people. And I think the local people are uneasy. Like there's just unrest here and they want to be competitive again. And they have that angle of it, which I totally understand. But a lot of these national places are saying the Patriots have had a very shrewd, very tepid, but smart offseason.
Can I opine on that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start by saying I think that this free agency year in general has really not been like Fred, you started the whole show by saying like something about Patriots haven't really made any splashes. I don't really think there have been very many splashes, period, in the league. I don't think it was a great free agent class, top to bottom. There was some good players available, and some of those, Christian Wilkins got big money, but I don't think there were a lot of those. So I think it was kind of quiet in general around the league. But the reason I think that national guys are higher on what the Patriots did than the local guys is because the local guys know more. And the national guys are still in denial. They're still in denial as to how far down the Patriots fell over the last couple of years. And they think by re-signing guys and, mixing in a couple of quality veterans, that represents a great offseason. And I'm fine. I am not killing the offseason. Let me state that definitively. I think some of the moves they made have been fine. But I think people look at it like, well, this was 2017. They didn't need to go out and sign Christian Wilkins or Danielle Hunter off the. They didn't need to make those kinds of moves. They just plug in a couple of guys here and there, and you're fine. That's not where the Patriots are right now. And I've seen a lot of national guys. I think say like they were one of the better. I think I saw they were like 7th in the AFC for a grading in the off season, the free agency. I'm like, okay, then either I don't think much of what everybody else has done, or you just think that these moves are going to put the Patriots in a position higher than I think they are.
I just think I agree with what you're saying. I just to tell you what I think they're saying is more on the lines of it's been proven that going out and spending a bunch of money in free agency to fix your team is not a way to turn yourself into a winner.
I would agree with that. They've spent a good amount of money, though.
Well, but like the splash signings, the
right. So let me ask you this: Do you think that
do
you think the rankings would be higher or lower if they had signed Calvin Ridley?
Higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So basically, you're telling me what the Patriots do is going to be given that grade, and I think we're still there nationally. Like the Patriots did it, so it's right. I think we're still there. I don't know how. I agree with you. I don't know how.
I just think they look at it from we know here back in 2021 we just did this, that you spend all the money, it looks great in March.
And in December we still did this. We were all talking for months about Bill won't be back next year. Nationally, they were laughing at us. The talking heads in Boston want to run Belichick out of town. Those mean talk show hosts on
Your shows.
My shows wanted to run Belichick out of town. They were in complete denial.
Yeah. Oh,
they had no idea that he was getting fired. They had none.
Nope.
Who was right?
Rich Eisen.
The people that are watching were right. They're not watching. They still think it's 2016.
Yeah. Let's go to the Ace Ticket Hotline. John's in New York. Hey, John. John? Wow. He was only on for 12 minutes. Ben in Chestnut Hill.
This is another good segment on the Sports Hub coming up.
Yeah.
What's
Ben,
up, guys?
hey,
How are
Ben.
you? I was just wondering your thoughts. I was thinking about like team building and just like how the NFL's been in the past few years, and I'm honestly not too upset like that we didn't overspend and like make a big splash. I think like this would go a little more long term than that, but I'm not familiar enough with like how cap space works. Can you guys talk a little bit about like if we have like $30 million left of cap space going into the season, like what does that mean for the team?
It rolls over. So the cap space will roll over into next year. Now you have expenditures between now and then, signing the draft class, injured reserve, practice squad, things like that will cut into it. But if let's say they spend about 10 to 15 million of it and all those different types of things, they have $20 million in cap space. You add, it rolls over into the 2025 league year.
But it also
it
doesn't limit them.
Thinking about like going forward, like to leave money for next year.
It doesn't really matter because even though you have 30 million, that's different than what you have to spend. Like they could spend 100 million this year, and the way they structure the deal still be under the cap as long as they figure it out.
I got a little tear, Fred.
No,
I'm proud.
but they have to make decisions in order to do that, and
Yes.
that's where the cap comes in. But how you structure the deal is more important, and the guaranteed money and when it's paid out is more important than the cap number.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say though, a lot of the deals that they've signed, and a lot of they don't have a lot of players under contract for 2025.
I mean, out of the veterans, only one of them got more than 2 years, and that was Gibson, I think.
Yeah, he got 3, and 2025.
Everybody else
they have
is either one.
40 in-house
Actually,
free agents
everybody
or
else is
something.
1 year except for Taki.
Yeah, I
who's
think
2.
I think they have something like 40 in-house free agents in 2025 right now.
So
40.
Does that money goes towards the reports of working on Judon's contract?
In the short term, sure.
Judon, that's news to Judon, by the way.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
That's why I said
Because that was the bot. That was one of the bots.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In like a Christian Barmore extension will probably cost them money in the immediate as well if they were to do that. Obviously, if they agree to an extension with Duggar, that would lower his number potentially. But like guys like Barmore, Judon, any new money would potentially kick in this year.
So this is March 20th, 2012. An 8-0 win for the Bruins.
Okay. Jonathan
Why
is...
do you think that's... Oh, it's
Why?
just one of those, the same
This day in history.
This is this day in history.
Such a random game.
Jonathan has an MBA in accounting and is a CPA candidate.
Oh.
He just has that in his email. Long-time listener, first-time emailer. Merrill Hodge came out and said he has a second-round grade on May. Merrill has a good stretch of being correct. Do we put any stake in his opinion?
Sure. I put stake in his opinion just like I do anybody else's.
Added to the soup of all of these people's opinions.
I mean, I don't.
We all got an opinion.
I'd like to know why.
Well, I'd also like to know what his stretch of being correct is.
Yeah.
Chris Sims had Harrison like third receiver.
Well, Chris Sims has Joe Milton as number 4, right, or something like that. Yeah.
No, I don't think he has.
No,
Joe
he always
Milton
does something weird like that.
He got to do something weird, otherwise people won't talk about it.
Right.
Yeah, but I put that in with all the other guys. Like, why should I ignore one guy because it doesn't agree with my line of thought?
I just like to know his details, like what's he seeing or what's he not seeing that others are. Trent writes in. He's got a dynasty question. By the way,
dynasty.
We're going to have another final episode of our wrap-up with Jeff Benedict and Matt Hamachuk. We had them both in studio at the same time. So
yeah,
that'll be good. He says, in the episode of the Dynasty, there was a clip from Super Bowl 42, the 18-1 season, about the last 30 seconds. It appeared Bill told Brady to play for a field goal. Immediately after, Brady said to Moss, "We're canning that," and then he threw a bomb. Do you guys think it was edited to come across as Brady saying we're canning that and going for the win? Or do you think Brady really ignored Bill and threw the Hail Mary to Moss on his own? Interested to hear each of your thoughts on this. And also, what are your opinions of Kraft and Bill and Tom after watching the Dynasty? Did it change the way you view any of them? So I remember that part of you remember that in the Dynasty? Brady just kind of went rogue and said, no,
I didn't see that.
I don't remember that.
I didn't clock that.
I
that's
do.
Interesting.
I would also just, not to be nitpicky, I don't think it was a Hail Mary to Moss. I think they had Moss deep down the side, regular double coverage like they had most of the year, and the guy made a great play, got a hand on the ball. It was close. They had a shot.
But that was, from what I understand, like maybe I guess they could have got into field goal, but I don't think that was that. It was like how many seconds were left? Like,
30, maybe.
It's like 30 seconds. They
Yeah.
could have gotten into field goal range.
Oh, there was 30 seconds left?
Yeah.
But I mean, they would have if he had caught the ball. They would have been like he wasn't going to go.
If he caught that ball, absolutely.
Yeah, but they weren't going to go. That wasn't going to be a touchdown. He was going to get tackled.
But do you think that? I think the question would be that the email is trying to get in.
Like matriculate it down
the
field.
Can we throw 3 crosses to Welker and get in field goal range?
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't remember that being feasible.
It was feasible, sure, but I think they got sacked on the first play.
Yes.
To me, that kind of eliminated that.
Right. And wasn't the throw to Moss the last play of the game?
No.
Oh, it wasn't?
That was a bad edit.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They made it out to be that was the last play of the game. It wasn't.
Okay.
I would also say that I wonder how your opinion would change.
3-0 Deuce.
Who wins this
I
game?
told you that. It's 8-0 Bruins.
I also like now getting into field goal range in 30 seconds is nothing.
Easy,
like you can do that in a second.
No,
that
would be like if that was Mahomes now. I mean, even Brady now.
You'd
You
be
go,
like,
too much time. Too much time.
Mahomes did it in 13.
Well,
yeah,
and
right.
that's why I just remember my feeling there like it was
It's
a
over.
lost cause.
It
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lost cause.
Maybe
I
it was because of
Just
after the
shocked
first
that
sack.
it was actually going to happen.
I think the sack probably eliminated the chances of a field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Snarky Paul will chime in. If Moss caught it, would they have gone for the field goal or they just gone for it, try to get a touchdown?
I don't know. You didn't trust Gostowski, so
that's Snarky
right.
Paul.
Sorry, Mrs. Gostowski, if you're still listening. I would say I went back and watched that last episode. I mean, we watched it all together, but as just a fan, I went back and watched it. And I think the last episode was really good.
I do too.
I just think, and I say this as a Patriots fan, not a Patriot. Like it's a necessary part of this to tell the whole story. And as I said on the wrap up, we'll always have 3 games to glory. Do your job. Every
team.
I own Paris.
I own all of them. We'll always have
Right.
Paris, but I own all of them, and that'll tell you what all the games were and what the drama was of the seasons and the ups and the downs. But look, as much as you don't want to admit it, like all this other stuff, as they became the biggest thing in sports, was a part of that story, and they told it their way. And yes, there were some holes, but I think in the end, if somebody watched that they would have a full sense of what this Patriots dynasty was. If you just watched America's Game, you'd be like, wow, that's not the whole story. Like, it really, in the context of the history of sports,
they were really good.
This is part of it.
And now and you watch the dynasty, and it's like they were really good, and in a lot of ways, even more impressive, especially to win that last one. Under the circumstances that they won it, when guys like McCourty and Slater are telling you just how untenable the situation was between, I should say, Tom and Bill.
Yeah.
Slater was literally a go-between.
But the joy had been taken out of winning. And, I look
and
at somebody.
It didn't have to effing be that
Right.
way.
Well, I was talking to somebody who goes, if you were making a documentary about a wedding, would you just focus on the negative? And I said, well if it ended in divorce, yeah. I mean, you'd want to know why did it end in divorce?
Where were the seeds being planted? And
Yeah. If they just had this magical romance that never had any
that's
problems,
not a good story.
then none of that would make it into the documentary. If they stayed married but they had an affair in between, you think they just ignore that part of the story?
Yeah, well, so showing the love part would set up the tragedy pretty good, though.
Yeah. I just think the one thing, as someone that didn't watch it with you guys, so that I think that's cool. Honestly, the one thing that I don't understand still is why did Bill even sit down for this? And it's either one thing. It's either that he knew it was going to make him look bad, so he just let them do it to almost make himself look sympathetic. I guess, is that possible that he was sitting there and he was like, well, if they're just going to drag me for 10 episodes, I'll just let them do it, and then they look like the a-holes.
I think he was told he had to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looked like. I mean,
I was going to let you say that, not me.
I think as an organization, we made a commitment to cooperate with this, and maybe it was naive to hope that it would come out all rosy.
Yeah.
I just feel like he had so many opportunities to defend himself in some circumstances, but also to show how great he was, and talk about some of these games and some of these moments, and he just didn't take any of them.
Well, and that's the thing, the question in the email was, after you see that, did your opinion of any of the three change? My answer is no. I think they're what I thought about them before the documentary is what I think about them now.
It made me actually like Tom Brady, which was weird. No, I'm just kidding. No, I really felt I didn't feel like I learned anything new or gained a new perspective on anything really from 1 through 8. Those episodes, good stuff, bad stuff, I kind of knew it all. But those last 2 episodes, I think, really just pulled the curtain back a little bit on how much it was really falling apart, and the things, and we talked about it many times.
Tell the truth.
Paul,
did you say Paul? Yeah. Paul was right.
No, well, I wasn't really listening to you at that point, so I don't know what you're saying.
That's the most honest answer you've ever given.
As much as I was definitely a fan of the show, but talk about 2019. I was here for that, and I saw the tension. I could see Brady looking miserable. This is how it is. So I was here for a season, of that, and that was what was amazing to me, was how did they get to that season? I mean, how did they even get through 2017 and bring it back in 18? I mean, there's even probably more to mine out of that season. And then they just kind of skip over 2019, which is like, no, they went 2 more years together. They continued to do this.
The 2019 season, because that was my second year on the beat, and that Brady that season was a miserable human being,
right?
And they were 8-9-0 or something before the Baltimore game,
and that's what they get some criticism for, the documentary, for not illustrating that.
I will never forget standing in Tennessee, or was it Detroit? One of those joint practices.
Detroit.
And somebody asked him about his contract, and it was bad. He was like,
go ask Mr. Kraft.
Yeah, go ask Mr. Kraft, and you could tell on his face that at that point I was like, this is it. He's gone.
I mean, they could have added that in, but I think probably, and not to speak for them, but they felt that we made the point that he was miserable. We didn't need to show 19 to show that, because we already made the point.
I would say my only point would be a technical thing, which was you kind of was misleading, because it felt like they won the Super Bowl and then he left 2 months later without.
For someone who didn't know, I could see them thinking that.
And I do think that the people that have been critical, it's been like, oh, they're showing the rift between Bill and Tom. Well, clearly there was another rift that was there, and it was plain for everybody to see. They glossed over that. In that 2019 season, Tom was mad at the world in 2019.
It was brutal.
It wasn't just Bill at that point.
I remember in Philly, he got to the podium and they played a rock fight against the Eagles, but they won the game.
remember that.
And
Edelman
it was
pass, right?
Yeah, Edelman double pass. Yeah, back of the
Aguilar
end zone.
dropped the pass.
And he was just miserable. I mean, he was just miserable.
Is that after they were 8-0? I think.
Yeah. And then they went to Baltimore. Lamar
and
killed
got
them.
doors blown.
Yeah.
And then they stumbled down the stretch. They went
Oh, yeah.
4 and 5, I think, down the stretch.
But his look on his face after the Titans loss here in the wild card round was like relief. And I had my first year on the beat. They won the Super Bowl, so I had never seen him lose a playoff game. I was expecting him to be miserable, and he looked like he was happy. I was like,
this will be good.
They were 4-4 down the stretch because he got tired of the 12-4 season.
That was true.
Right.
He was tired.
Yeah, not for me.
Then we lost in the playoffs. 4-5.
Lucky for you guys, never to return.
But that's when Al Michaels said Tom Brady was the most miserable 8-0 quarterback in football.
Everyone could see
it. It was that Sunday night game against Baltimore that they got blown
trounced.
Let's see. Who's this? Jeff writes in. Stay if May, trade back if Daniels. As Deuce said, we want the Drake. If he's not there, the best outcome for night one of the draft is, wow, I can't believe how much we got for trading back from 3. And what do you guys think Cliff Kingsbury and Adam Peters in D.C. will prefer?
I hope they take Jaden Daniels. And I don't mean this as like I don't want Jaden Daniels. I'd be totally happy with him, but I would prefer May, and I think we got to do some.
You're strongly in the May.
Is this my fault? I'm sorry.
No, I like May too.
No, I mean it's just kind of my process of what I continue to kind of watch these guys a little bit here and there and dig and it's just it's hard to take a stand on one of them without trying to feel like I don't like Jade. I think Jaden Daniels would be great. I would be excited to see him out here. I just think if I have to roll the dice on one of these two guys, I would just take a chance on the guy who's a little bit younger and still has some skills to develop. But I mean, they both have skills to develop, so I won't be complaining at all if they take Daniels. But honestly, after those two, I don't really have any use for any other quarterbacks in this draft.
I couldn't agree more that.
I'll tell Aldred that
it stinks that we almost have to trash Daniels to support. Like, I like both these guys a lot too. I think the difference just to me is that so much of Jaden Daniels' production came on throwing fades to those two receivers. And it's like, if he doesn't have those two guys that are true ball winners on the outside that can really win matchups and things like that, and it's all on him to process the field and make decisions and
win and structure.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's going to be Justin Fields ish for him early, and whether or not he pulls out of it's going to be if they can get him the receivers to win on the outside.
Patrick's in Florida. What's up, Patrick?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey.
Hi, yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to say, a lot of people are talking about not being able to get receiver talent in free agency. I think if we take a quarterback this year at 3, it's going to make it a whole lot easier to attract those receivers to come to us.
That's the plan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the hope.
Down the road, yep.
I mean, that's kind of speaks to what I said of guys want to play for him, and I think, we can go back to Paul and Bledsoe in the 90s where you felt like you were building a little something. I don't think anybody came out of last year feeling like we're building a little something here. It felt like we were kind of hanging on to an old model that wasn't working anymore.
Yeah, it's like 94 Patriots. They weren't a contender, but they were clearly on the rise.
And you could
By
see
96, you're a contender.
Yep. Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate the call. John in New York's giving it another shot. What's up, John?
Hey, I was just wondering, is it smart to pick Luke McCaffrey at 34 or wait until day 3 to pick him? Because he can play quarterback, but he changed his position to wide receiver.
So Luke McCaffrey is Christian
Or maybe
McCaffrey's
reach
brother.
for a guy like Brendan Rice.
He likes family
Thanks.
guys.
So, yeah, Luke McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey's brother,
Yes.
who plays wide receiver and is a day 3 guy. Probably 4th, 5th round, something
I'm
like
pretty
that.
sure he knew that based on
Yeah.
That'd be
the
fun
tone
though,
of his
because you
voice.
could get like a Luke chant for him.
I just like to,
They're not booing him.
some
They're
people
not
are
booing
like,
him,
who's
it's
he
Luke.
talking about? So I just, want to make sure everybody. I do find that, though, a lot of people are Marvin Harrison Jr., Brendan Rice, Luke McCaffrey, all because of the bloodlines.
Yeah.
It's all because of who their fathers are and who their brothers are and stuff like that.
Who's the linebacker too from the Eagles that's got a kid in this one?
Trotter.
Another junior.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Right,
That's crazy.
Clemson, yeah.
How about me, huh?
That's how old
Look at
I
me.
am.
Yeah, you're doing your research.
Not really.
Longino
Riding
from Jersey
coattails.
writes in, just want to express that it's very understanding why Belichick doesn't answer media questions. Hearing from Paul's shows and seeing mostly on other social media how often people bring up Mayo and Elliott quotes about weaponizing the offense and having money to burn, it's ridiculous how much they get ridiculed for saying those things. As much as I understand why they said that, realistically, you can't fix everything in free agency, especially if players don't want to come here. But there's still time, and I'm hoping they can get 3 hits off the draft. I know the chances aren't that good, but one can hope.
I was thinking this is a learning process for these new guys, I think, and I think they've slipped up a couple times with stuff that Bill, in his first go around, made that mistake, and that's why he shut it down. Where you can't kind of make an off the cuff kind of comment like money to burn or weaponize, and this is what's going to happen. It's going to get thrown back in your face.
Yeah. I strongly agree with that notion. That's why Bill didn't say anything. But I completely disagree with, like, it's been unfair to criticize. You don't say those things, not do them, and expect everybody to say, oh, well. And you don't have to be mad that they didn't spend money because, you know, we talked about the offseason. I don't think there were a ton of opportunities to spend a lot of money. Ridley being the exception, right? But
and they were willing to spend a lot.
But when you say that and then don't do it, I don't know why it's unfair to then question that. And I don't think they've been questioned over the top about it.
I think that's my biggest critique so far of the offseason is you overpromised. Under-promise and over-deliver, right?
So there was a really interesting thing, and I want to give you a plug here, Ev. And you and Mike, when you talked to Elliott Wolf at the Combine, and your boy Alex brought this up on Sunday, I had an unbelievable 2-hour stint with Alex Bart, which
unbelievable how?
I mean, vaulted to the top.
Can you believe this guy?
Vaulted to the top of the Sports Hub ratings. Right. No, but Alex called out the quote that you guys had from Elliott. It was much more measured than full throttle, money to burn, all this. And he talked about, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, just, you know, the different ways that you have to do it. It's not just about, but to ignore free agency is foolish or something like that. You know, and that's what he's talking about. Well, they kind of did. They re-signed. Like, I understand that money is money. So you spend money on your own guys, you spend money on other guys. I do not count re-signing your own guys as free agency. It's necessary in some cases. I'm not diminishing it. But free agency to me is the guys that they signed from other teams. That's your free agency. So, like, they kind of did ignore free agency in this. They chose to get a handful of guys on 1-year deals that aren't really going to be...
Gibson and Taki the only ones that got more than one.
Yeah. Paul, is it okay to ignore the supplemental draft?
Yes.
Hey, Terrell Pryor came from the supplemental draft.
Right.
Oh. Tim writes in.
So did Gerard Cherry.
Don't disrespect.
Gerard.
Tim, our friend from Duncan, says, I missed the first part of the show, and you may have already talked about the Tom Brady ceremony on June 12th. If not, do you have any more details other than the time and date? Will season ticket holders have first priority on tickets? Yes, you will. If you're a season ticket holders, you probably get a notice in the mail in the next week or so.
Had that not been made public until yesterday?
Well, I think Robert initially
didn't Robert say June 12th?
I think he did.
I thought I could have sworn he did. But everybody
said it was confirmed as
the thing that we
PR released the full schedule of the spring and put it in.
And everybody was like, "Oh, and the Patriots going to."
Also,
I could have sworn he said that.
How
2
about
months
that?
ago.
Us getting a full schedule.
I know that was pretty cool.
Yeah, people don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead, explain.
Oh, just having the ability to see your entire off-season schedule, OTAs, minicamp, rookie minicamp, all the things, is crazy.
We never used to get that.
No, you usually find out 72 hours before.
Well, I agree, and what I'm even more excited about is we get to go to a day of rookie minicamp.
Which I'm concerned about that.
I am concerned about it as well, but if they do take a quarterback third overall, it's gonna.
He can't hit anything. He looks terrible.
As someone who covered
that's the thing.
Yeah, I know.
As someone who covered about 15 rookie minicamps before Bill stopped allowing the media to go to, you're not going to be happy with that. Just going to let you know that.
You mean not happy with what they're doing
having
on the
to
field?
cover it. Having to cover it. It's not a fun event.
We'll be happy.
It's not a fun event to cover.
Is that because not much goes on?
It's like herding cats.
Yeah.
And it was also the time that I got.
But
I'll tell you, just Chad Jackson.
Oh yeah, well I'm sure he looked great in shorts and a t-shirt.
Freddie, they got a good one in this Chad Jackson.
Paul got snookered.
Oh, certainly.
But that scares me even more because if there's nothing really to watch or say, people are going to start to have opinions about what they saw and start to draw. And then all of a sudden,
and that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. And so this, I would connect this to money to burn. Like, are we sure? Like, we want to, start having people forming opinions about how Drake May held his shoulder pads when he walked onto the field, or you know what I mean, like those stupid things,
and that will happen.
And people are going to start to be
Paul
like,
shows.
It was it was one of the less is more things that Bill did that I agreed with.
Yeah,
I think that the rookies have enough to worry about than to have 40 people standing on the sideline watching their every move as they're simply trying to learn the new terminology of what the system that they're coming into is. They're not ready to be evaluated, and I don't care how many times the coaches say this is not evaluation. Everybody there is going to be evaluating. There'll be people putting video clips up on their timeline showing this guy's great, this guy stinks. It's not fair to the rookies, and I understand why Bill stopped allowing us to go to it.
They say the same thing about minicamp, where this is teaching, and it's the same thing, and we're guilty of it too.
Right,
But
we all do it.
Yeah, I'm excited for us from a content standpoint because it's great to get the content in the off season is what I more meant. But I couldn't agree more that we don't need to be there. It's not for in the best interest of any of the guys out there.
There's really nothing to be gained, from an analysis standpoint. No,
I think it was the year. Do you remember?
I
forget.
I mean, it's for
Tyrone
the
McKenzie.
dumb side of me that likes like football aesthetics, and they might actually get their numbers, and they'll have like their little get up on. That nerd part of me will be like, oh, he looks good, But
hopefully they can do that. Hopefully that's one of the things that Bill did that we can.
So what
past.
we were talking about this upstairs with Tease. Drake May wore 10 in college.
0.
What?
No.
10 was
We should
Mac was 10.
that should
I
be
don't know.
burned. That jersey needs to be
Obviously, he's not going to wear 12. So, what quarterback number?
I'm not
are we
as
going
worried
with?
about that. I'll tell you what, Taki wearing 16 drive me nuts.
Well, that's why I'm worried about it. I mean,
he was 16 last year.
No, he's wearing it now. Like it just was on like Instagram. He put it on.
Who
his
will be the
Instagram.
first
He's
one
like,
to write? Jacoby Brissett went through the drills first. Does that mean he's going to start?
I know.
I have some names for you. off the
Jalen
after that.
Reagor's leading them. Jalen Reagor's leading the wide receivers. He's shooting up the depth
Stop.
chart.
Right.
Like, oh my god.
Like
Oh my god.
the 10 jersey should just be off limits.
So Jaden Daniels was 5. I was trying to think of it off the top of my head. I think 5's taken, right, by your boy.
Jabril?
Yeah.
Jabril?
So it's.
I'm fine
it's
with 10. I think that's a quarterback
Well, it's
number.
probably going to be 10. Yeah.
I like 10 as well.
Yeah.
Like 11's
It
taken.
won't bug me. Mac did not ruin 10 for me like the litany of receivers who were failed in 17 have, which is what I'm kind of concerned.
If Xavier Legette wears 17,
no,
we riot.
well, I mean, I think what's his face is going to take it. Osborne, he was 17 in Minnesota.
Oh, well, that's fine. Just let him take it.
Honestly,
that's fine.
Bust. There's a bust, guys. Sorry.
No.
I would
Sorry
like Gonzalez. I know a lot of people probably bought his jersey already, so I'm sorry, but
the 0.
I know everybody likes 0. I want him in 24. Like get
the 0.
No, 24 that's the Patriots cornerback number. Ty Law, Darrell Revis, Stephon Gilmore.
Okay, but what if Stephon Gilmore comes back? He said he'd be open to
there
it.
you go.
He said
Then that's a different
he said
story.
He'd be open to it.
But
Well, he's gonna have to pay Josh
I
Blake.
want Ty Law to hand Christian Gonzalez 24 and be like, "It's yours now, kid.
Well,
Here you go."
With a bottle of vodka.
If Stephon Gilmore comes back,
Ty
he's
Law,
going to
Ty
want
Law's
24, so Gonzo can wear 0.
I hate 0. Can I tell you
I
that?
like 6 on Gonzalez. I'm fine.
I think that decimal point should come into play.
We might get to
that. That would open up a
How
lot.
about slash mark? Like
6.2.
Yeah. No, I don't know about
Backslash.
symbols, but like just the period.
Pi.
Yeah, pi.
Just symbols.
Yeah. 1 and a hay.
He's the pound.
3.14.
Yeah.
Drake May's going to wear the pound symbol.
I will say certain colleges, they have like mascots, and they have like a normal size mascot, and then they'll have like a baby one, and it'll be like half.
Yeah.
The jersey will say like
Yeah,
half.
like
Is that
a
what
fraction.
Is that what the Hokies
Yeah,
do?
bring
No,
in fractions.
Clemson does that.
It's a little hokey.
It's like a little cub.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
I like fractions. Yeah.
Fractions.
It was all there
He's
for
a
it.
half
She was
a
just
man.
You know what?
It's so cute.
One of these days on the show, I'm going to get this out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like guy goes by 3/4.
3/4.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean,
Double
you just
zero?
need to identify them.
Yeah.
At what point did they realize that guys didn't need to have the first, like if they had the same last name, you didn't have to have the first initial because they're different numbers. Like you don't need to have like J McCourty and D McCourty because they're 32 and 30. You know what I mean?
The easier thing is the when you watch them on the all 22, you got to look at like, are they wearing long socks? Are they wearing one sock is up, one sock is down? Are they wearing like an armband?
You're not looking at any of that
because that's how you have to figure out like who's who sometimes from the bird's eye because you can't see the numbers.
There are no numbers on our shoulders.
Well, it's not clear enough. You know, you're so high. The angle is so.
What
high
about like
up.
geometry, like triangles, circle?
No.
I mean, Prince went
No.
to a symbol. I mean,
Yeah.
you could just make it up.
Yeah, I just wish that it was more.
Like Eminem said.
Like TB12 is just TB12 now. He's not at 12. He's TB12.
Next thing you
Matt
know,
gives me the nod.
next thing you know, it's
This is
not
great
even,
radio.
Next thing you know, it's going to be social media
This is the
handles on the back
off-season.
of the jerseys.
Sure.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
that's right.
Right? Oh my
I'm
gosh, they're not even
serious.
gonna put their last names. They're gonna put their.
UC,
That's a good
I think
call,
UC,
Camaro.
I think UCF did it for like NIL purposes. Like their guys wore social media
Oh,
handles
it's
in the
coming.
back.
Great
It's crazy.
call. That's
Oh, that was a big thing in basketball coming out of
Foresight.
the vid.
Yeah.
All the teams did that.
The vid.
The vid.
COVID, as Mike used to call it.
The vid.
The Canadian hockey player.
Who calls it the vid?
I heard that on the radio too this morning. Someone called it the vid.
A lot of people
We might have
call
been
it the
listening
vid.
to it. It was Hardy and.
I certainly didn't invent it.
Patty's in
clever.
Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's going on, everyone?
Hey, Patty.
Calling because I'm going to be on a plane Thursday. I just wanted to express something that's been really bothering me lately, and that's I think there's a lot of fans with unrealistic expectations that even if they had knocked free agency out of the park, knocked number 3, like with either Daniels or May, that this team was going to just turn it around in one season. And I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
maybe I'm not smoking the good stuff like a lot of these other fans are smoking, but realistically, I mean, if you look at how bereft this offense was with talent, I don't know how anyone realistically and logically could think they were going to turn it around in 1 year. This, I mean,
well, I've heard
this may sound a little.
I haven't heard a lot of people saying, and I'm talking about fans and then people on Paul's
My
shows.
shows,
Thanks for the call, Patty. I haven't heard a lot of people say, I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Because there's no basis in which to say that. There might be a few, but the vast majority of people are just looking for signs of improvement and hope for the future.
And I agree with you, Fred. But in that regard, like I don't think that you have to be unrealistic and think they're going to make the playoffs to have wanted them to do more to improve the team.
Yeah.
Like I think people are looking at it realistically and saying, okay, maybe they won't be great this year.
Right.
But you get a couple of people that can help you, and then you get a couple more people the next year, and all of a sudden you are great at some point. Like you can't just go from we're bereft of talent on offense, we don't add anybody on offense, and all of a sudden in 2 years we're going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was 2 nights ago, maybe Bedard and Felger got into like a little debate on the TV show. And
sure, that was
I don't know the genesis of it. I only caught some of it. Felger was basically, his side was, why can't we be, why don't you want them to win games now?
Right.
And Bedard was more like, be patient and all that.
Yeah. I just think it's
that's how I feel. I feel like Felger.
Well, I think it's just
Well,
a
of
little
course you
bit.
do.
It's a little bit extreme, and it's. I think
was
it's okay to be disappointed without saying that they totally blew it. I think they're disappointed probably that they weren't able to secure Calvin Ridley. So I can express disappointment and not feel like, well, just forget it then.
I've heard a lot of that. Like, why would you want to spend money on players who aren't going to be here? Why would you want to spend money? What good is he going to do? Like, you're not going to be good anyway. So does that mean we shouldn't try to improve our team? Like, should Antonio Gibson not bother playing this year because he'll be a better third down back than the third down back that everybody's been saying that they didn't have last year? Like, should he not try?
Yeah.
I just think that there's a middle ground, and I think one of the concerns that I have is that you do want Gerard Mayo to have some success next year.
For his sake.
For his sake, for the program's sake. And I think one of the biggest thing that we don't, I think some people think it's an excuse, but the reality is that they weren't a draw for free agents. The only thing that was drawing free agents here was money. And when the money got silly on certain guys, they bowed out of it. But the only thing that they could have done to draw Calvin Ridley to the New England Patriots was pay him $100 million. That was it. And I think that you have to have some things that you can sit here and say in a year, we have Drake May, we have Christian Gonzalez, we have this, we have that, and we're building towards something here. Last year, we overachieved maybe a little bit. We won 6 or 7 games. Like, if you don't get to that point, then where's the momentum? And I worry that they're going to be stuck.
They must do well in the draft.
It's the
They
but
must.
it's the I agree, but it's the argument that like it's not going to matter anyway that I don't understand, and that's where I agree with Felger.
Right.
Like,
And I want to watch good football this year. I want to see
he
some
said,
talent.
okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to draft a guy at number 3 as a quarterback, but he's probably maybe you don't want him to play. Can we get the best quarterback that we could possibly get to put us in position to win as many games? Even though I understand that I'm drafting someone with the 3rd pick, and when I'm good again, that 3rd pick is going to be the guy that's going to like. I think that's a rational idea. Now, if you think Jacoby Brissett is better than every other guy, that's fine too. That's your opinion. But I don't think most people think that way, and I'm not saying that you do, Evan. That wasn't a shot.
I would take Jacoby Brissett over a lot of these guys. I mean, we would have time for another show because we're getting up against it. But we
Can
have
I
to
have
go.
an example?
Sure.
Give me one.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think him and Gardner Minshew to me are a wash.
I would agree with that.
And I think
mid.
that Brissett's a better fit for the things Fred said. So
I just think there's a line too, though, of like how much you're going to give this guy. Like, you need to be fiscally responsible.
Like, what was the what was the move? Was it Russell Wilson? Is that what?
Oh no, I wasn't in favor of that.
Right. So what was the move?
I actually think Wilson's fallen so far. I don't think there's much of a difference between him and Brissett.
Me neither. So what's the difference? Like, what's the move that everybody like to make we could have taken this veteran quarterback? Like, who is it?
I mean, you would have had to have been involved in the guys that were going to cost you some money.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Baker Mayfield before he signed.
Yeah.
Like, but to me, if you bring in Baker Mayfield, you're not drafting a quarterback at 3.
Right.
See, but I would have.
Yeah. I would.
You're not paying $100 million to a quarterback and then
I'm
drafting.
trying to. See, I don't really care about the money. Like, it's not mine. I get it.
I know, but if you were GM, you would care about.
Yeah, but I would want both.
Yeah.
And I didn't get both.
It's a tough conversation for Elliot Wolf to go to Robert Kraft and say, I need $100 million for Mayfield. Then we're going to sign this guy, and then we're going to have to give him $100 million in 3 years.
By that time, Mayfield's gone. But yeah,
in 5 years.
Eldred's in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, Tamara. Hey, fellas. How y'all doing?
All right. Hey.
I ain't got enough time, but Paul, you throwing daggers, so I'm going to throw some knives back, but I can't do it today. Okay, I got a question to ask y'all.
Who am I throwing daggers at?
Me.
Really?
Yeah. No, it's just all in fun, Paul. Just all in fun.
Oh yeah, I hope you know that because I don't throw it. You're one of my
I know that,
favorites.
man.
I don't throw any daggers at you.
I'm good.
I think somebody might have said something about Penix.
Oh, it certainly wasn't me. I like Michael Penix.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was about the quarterback, the best throws and all this and that and all whatever. But
okay.
Left tackle, Josh Jones still out there for free agent.
Yeah.
Anybody got any interest?
Yeah, him, Charles Leno. If you want like the veteran guy, then there, I mentioned Becton earlier as like the lottery ticket.
I'd be interested in Becton. He would intrigue me as a 1-year guy more than the other guys. DJ Humphries, torn ACL.
Yeah, I'm tempted with Leno to just say, he could be a serviceable left tackle for 2024, and when you draft a guy day 2 that you develop and all. But I agree that if you're trying to go for upside, then Becton's definitely that guy.
Beckham's that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
they got
one more question. I'm gonna let it go.
Okay. Last question.
Evan.
Yes, sir.
Did you say Daniel's best throw is the fade corner?
Slot fade.
What's Drake May?
Oh, good question. I would say probably the post. Yeah, I'd say probably the post.
The post?
Yeah.
Oh, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, all I see is wide open receivers he's missing. That's one of the best throws I've seen.
Well done.
Off the back.
Well done. I fell for that. I fell for it.
They must have had the most unbelievable offense ever then because all their guys were wide open. Yeah. Somehow we completed all those passes.
All right. That's going to be
Somehow
it
they
for this
don't score,
edition of
though.
Patriots Unfiltered. We'll be back on Thursday with another edition.
Yeah. We're going to drop Patriots draft countdown tomorrow, a full episode focusing on the offensive line.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like my plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get my plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want on your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get my plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.